Looking for the best astrology guidance? You can enjoy an entire month of personalized astrology services for just $3.99. At Serious Joy, we pride ourselves on providing astrology enthusiasts with exactly what they're looking for: daily personalized inspiration that speaks directly to the heart. Sign up today and you'll receive personalized messages straight to your phone 7 days a week. And that's just half of it. You'll also get access to our exclusive members-only site with tons of amazing features. Experience the most accurate astrology service on the web at seriousjoy.com.
Hello and welcome to Namaste today. I am your host, Sensei Christopher Witecki. It is a pleasure to be here. We are live and streaming to all the platforms that we are subscribed to. If you're not aware, we are currently live on Facebook. We're live on X, formerly known as Twitter. We're live on LinkedIn. And we are live, of course, on YouTube with our Super Chat. Of course, it would not be a Friday without that famous song, "It's Friday, thank God it's Friday." And we're having the Friday vibes here. Welcome to everyone. If you are streaming with us in our Super Chat, let us know where you are streaming from. And we'd love to have everyone come together. Now, this is a Super Chat. So if you're streaming on Facebook, or you're streaming on X, or you're streaming on YouTube, I can't keep them straight. We all come into a Super Chat. So let's say hello to some people here. Hello, Queen Shira. Oh my gosh, so nice to see you, Queen Shira. I haven't seen you in a long time. Hello from Cincinnati, Ohio. I can't quite read the name. It looks like Gene-nification. Hello, everyone. Hello, Tammy in New Jersey. Hello, Melody in Lake Tahoe. Hello, Carol. Hello, Lisa from Florida. And hello, Ellen from the Island Empire. Hello. Hello, everyone. Such a pleasure to be here. It's a great day. For one reason, it's the last day of Virgo. Halamia. This Virgo transit has been one of the most intense I've ever experienced in my life. We have a great show for you guys today. We're going to talk about the sun now entering into Libra and what to focus on this week. We're going to talk about some aspects going on to Jupiter. We're going to talk about a full moon we have in Aries that's going to call for you to surrender. And tonight on Astro Mingle, I'm happy to have a very special guest, psychic medium and mentor, Scott Cruz. Scott is the real deal. We're going to get deep on his psychic abilities and talk about what he is seeing with his third eye. Before we dive into all this great information, let's take a look at the week's moods and your zodiac weather. This zodiac weather is for Saturday, September 23rd to Friday, September 29th, 2023. Looking at your weekend forecast, this weekend sort of opens up a little awkward. It is the beginning of the Libra transit, and you may be a little sensitive. Let's drill down. On Saturday, it's sunny and crisp. Step 0 means Pluto rules the day. That means you are defining inner boundaries with yourself and likely marching forward cautiously. The moon in Capricorn may make you a little bit self-judgmental, and Venus trines Chiron, which means you're getting ready to try something one more time. On Sunday, it's sunny and sober. Step 1 means the sun rules the day, so you are in your heart and feeling what your heart is interested in. In fact, you are finding self-love in your mirage and facing the challenge. But with Mars opposing Chiron, you may be having to face a little apprehension about trying something again. And now on to your 5-day weekday mood forecast. Looking at the week ahead, we really examine our relationship to ourselves, and it all apexes on Friday with the full moon in Aries. Let's drill down. On Monday, it's cloudy and underwhelmed. Step 2 means the moon rules the day, and the moon is in Aquarius, so you are a little detached and probably searching for how you really feel about things. You're remapping your relationship to your feelings at large. And with Mercury trining Jupiter, you're also budgeting your lifestyle values. On Tuesday, it's cloudy and somewhat tense. Step 3 means Jupiter rules the day, which opens the door for a new belief about your mirage and what you believe about yourself. You're also feeling out the future. And by the end of the day, you may feel some karma with yourself as the moon moves into Pisces and conjoins Saturn. On Wednesday, it's sunny and sympathetic. Step 4 means Uranus rules the day. Expect the unexpected, some perhaps surprises with yourself. The universe is calling you to shift perspective with your heart. With the moon in Pisces, you're also feeling your karma with yourself and your karma at large. And overall, today you are committing to a new wish for the future. On Thursday, it's sunny and imaginary. Step 5 means Mercury rules the day. You are today adopting a new mindset about your marriage or a new opinion of yourself. And you are feeling destiny's call to relationships. And the moon starts to move into Aries and begin its transit to full moon status. And then on Friday, it's sunny and resigned. Step 6 means it's a Grandmaster day. Venus rules the day. The moon is full in Aries. You are accepting new marriage vows to yourself and surrendering to ego attachments. Well, friends, we are so kind and grateful for you here today. If you don't know, this program is sponsored by SeriousJoy.com, my personal sensei service. If you haven't already, please be kind and do subscribe to our YouTube channel, SeriousJoy.tv. Hit the like button if you don't mind, because it helps us with the algorithm with YouTube so that we're promoted to other people who also enjoy. And as I mentioned, this show is sponsored in full by SeriousJoy.com. This is a personal astrology-based spiritual life coaching system. We actually coach you from the basis of your natal chart 7 days a week with 7 messages a day. I also have a daily pep talk that I broadcast 5 days a week. We have Robbie Hunt, astrologer and metaphysical minister, on the weekends. She also does some metaphysical studies. We have angel messages with Devin Doer, sound healing with Kristen Ryder, and so much more. Plus, I have some exciting features and an announcement of what you can expect with Serious Joy coming up at the end of the show. And with that, let's move on to our planets and transits. Welcome to our planets and transits. As I mentioned, this is the final day of Virgo, and I am so grateful. This Virgo season has been really difficult this year. I think just because of the Mercury retrograde. So it's sort of like coming and going. My task list has not really been accomplished, I have to say. I'm going to move into Libra this weekend, feeling out of balance, which is not the way you want to start with Libra. But I am happy to announce that I do think things are going to calm down now a bit energetically. We're going to get a bit of a break as we move into the Libra season. But that calming is with ourselves, not necessarily with the world. So as we move into this talk about the planets and transits this weekend, I want to start, with the big picture. Now, if you guys haven't noticed, the way I organize this show is kind of obvious. I always start with the big picture, sort of a funnel. Then we move into the planets and how that feeds into this week. Then we move into your horoscope and how it relates to you specifically. And then we have an Astro Mingle interview where we talk shop and we see the bigger picture from a new perspective. Well, looking at the big picture, friends, this is an interesting time for the Earth. I spoke to this last week. I'm going to speak to it again. We currently have Pluto in Capricorn at 27 degrees. And this is significant because this is the United States Pluto return. Pluto is transformation, it's boundaries, it's where we draw the line. Capricorn is power. And so when you put the two together, Pluto and Capricorn, this is us redrawing the lines with where we and how we manage our power. And you could say that we have been in a power struggle. And that would mean in all areas of life. That would be in government. That would be with personal freedom and liberties. That would be with medicine. That would also be, let's say, with finances and how the ups and downs of the economy. Certainly COVID did this really since 2020. Just prior to COVID, Saturn and Pluto conjoined. I can't remember for how long. I think it was the first time in 700 years. Don't quote me on that because I didn't look it up. I remember reporting on it back in 2020. When Saturn and Pluto come together, I'd call it a jackhammer. It was sort of the foundation of power sort of being cracked. And we have had this crack up. That's a good way to put it. A crack up in our power and been facing that crack up in power since 2020. Since then, last year in 2022, Pluto returned to the same spot it was in the American Revolution with the Declaration of Independence. And that Declaration of Independence was the people, we the people, saying that it was time to take our power back from England, of course, and of course from a monarch where we didn't really have representation. So the whole mantra was representation, taxation without representation. We all remember that from social studies, right? That's what we call history and growing up with social studies. Well, Pluto returned back to its same place it was during the Declaration of Independence, July 12th, 2022, last year. And it has since returned one more time in the retrograde, and it is now in this retrograde back to 27. And energetically, what this means is this is a final draft of power and where we draw the lines with power, particularly in the United States. But because the United States is such a media frenzy and tends to be at least the leader oftentimes of things in the world. I wish we followed Europe more, to be honest. I think Europe has a lot of great policies that serve the people. But overall, I think that we are the headliner, at least since the World War II. This will be our final sort of approach to declaring power. So I'm predicting that there may be some national, international, I'm not sure where it would come up, but some sort of final power struggle or final grab for power between now and the end of October, probably around Halloween, I think is ironically, Fright Fest. That might be what it is. And I'm telling you this because I think that where we are on our personal level right now is very important because we all play a part in power, and we are all currently in a democracy, republic really, but we do have the ability to vote, and it's up to us to make sure that balance and power happens. Well, what turns up the fire this week is a conjunction with the planet Aries. Now, you may not be familiar with Aries. Aries was discovered in 2005-ish. It was confirmed by 2007. Aries is considered to be the 10th planet. It has a huge orbit around the sun. 558 years is its orbit, almost twice the orbit of Pluto. And astrologers have all come to terms to identify it with the personification of chaos, strife, discord, and really no holes barred fighting for continued existence. So this is the struggle. This is the fight. This is kind of the revolution. Aries represents where the fight happens to be. Now, it moves very slowly. It has been in Aries for over 100 years. It stays in Aries for a total of 125 years. That's how slow it goes through. So we're talking over a century, which basically, if you think about it, Aries is what? The fighting sign, is the sign of conflict. It's a sign of aggression. It's a sign of big egos. And we can all agree that the 1900s are very much about that. We had 2 world wars. We had a lot of Rockefeller, big ego type of people trying to, Chase Manhattan, for instance. Who am I thinking of right now? I can't think of his name. It'll come to me. Of course, when I want something on the fly, my mind goes, no. But we've had a bunch of, Rockefellers, et cetera, in this century as well, going for that power. That to me is all Aries in Aries, that we have had a lot of aggression in this century. And the interesting aspect that I want to bring up today is this week, the North Node in Aries, and this is the first time the North Node has been in Aries since 2005. The North Node in Aries will conjoin Aries this week. It happens this Wednesday. And I believe that that could be a marker for some sort of revolt or uprising energy. Of course, this would be in a big picture of things. Step 24 is where Aries currently is. The North Node will move to step 24 Aries. And this means JP Morgan. Thank you, Barry. Thank you, everyone. JP Morgan. I couldn't think of his name. I kept seeing the Monopoly guy in my third eye, but I couldn't think of his name for some reason. Interesting fellow. Another story there. But nonetheless, tried to take over banking, and you could say he has. JP Morgan Chase right now is still one of the largest banks in the world, right? So we've all seen this, accumulation and fight for power, and also big egos in Aries. And like I said, Aries, I think I have seen some of the incidences, I think, that come from Aries and Aries. Well, there'll likely be a target this week. Something's probably going to come up with the North Node hitting this. If anything, it might be that people feel called to rise up in some fashion or another. So we might see something as simple as people demonstrating in a city across the world. We might see some sort of a form of terrorism. Unfortunately, that's not something I'm asking for, but it did happen the last time. In fact, I did some research before the show. The last time the North Node in Aries conjoined Aries, say that 20 times, was July 9th, 2005. July 9th, 2005. And on that conjunction, on July 7th, 2 days prior, There was a coordinated terrorist bomb attack on London's public transit system during the morning rush hour that killed 52 people and injured 700. So we had basically a terrorist attack in London. We also had on July 10th, just one day after the conjunction, Hurricane Dennis slammed into the Florida Panhandle, and that caused billions of dollars of damage as well. So we had a hurricane wash up on our continent with that. July 21st, there was another attempted terrorist attack in London. And then July 23rd, 3 bombs exploded in Naima Bay in Egypt, killing 88 people. So there was certainly, I can see some, looks like rising of terrorism and action and violence the last time the North Node hit Aries. So the interesting aspect about this particular time is I'm not so sure that there will be, let's say, a rise up of terrorism or organized crime like it was in the last time. Although I would say that those people who were conducting those attacks, they probably did believe that they were fighting for their continued existence. Given the planets, though, and looking at all the other things going on, I believe this is going to be something where every person in life is somehow feeling the call to stand up. And if that's the case, it would be likely that there will be some sort of event, probably politics. I know right now the United States government is on threat of shutdown, at least at press time when I actually, before I went on the air. So, it could be just a good old fashioned Democrat-Republican power struggle. But I think the difference is that I feel people are going to feel probably pushed to stand up and say something, or probably feeling the urge that we have to somehow take some responsibility in our global village and our own global happiness. So we're getting pushed a little bit. Now, that's the big picture of our environment. We also have Uranus in Taurus, which is pushing for innovation of the economy. And we have Neptune in the high degrees of Pisces. And I mentioned last week, the last time we had Neptune in the high degree of Pisces was right before the American Civil War. The American Civil War began when Neptune hit 29 degrees Pisces. Neptune, as of today, is 26 degrees Pisces. So we are kind of in the realm of a lot of different things. Uranus is right in the spot it was during the start of World War II. So all the planets are back to positions where there was major world conflict in history. And the question is, well, what does that do with us? Like, what does that have to do with us as an individual? Well, I've been speaking to this for several weeks now. In essence, we as individuals are now being called to follow our heart's dreams and to manifest our calling here on earth. And it's my personal opinion as a spiritual speaker that I feel that if everyone in the world moves to follow their own heart's desires, moves to do good in their own sphere of influence, and to be an influence in their world, or to do what their heart is called to, I believe it's going to overwhelm in many ways the energy of the other forces on earth. I think the way to do this is for us to just push light, goodness, and love onto the planet as much as we possibly can. So with that context, where does that leave us right now? This week, the sun is moving into Libra. Now, Libra is the consciousness of the human being that deals with relations. So we have one part of our soul here on earth that does nothing but constantly calculate how we relate to everything. And, they tell us you shouldn't compare yourself to others. Well, I think that's impossible not to compare yourself to others, because we have this whole state of awareness called Libra that's constantly comparing ourselves to others, comparing ourselves to animals, comparing ourselves, our distance between here and there. We're constantly looking at our relation to everything in our consciousness. And that consciousness that looks at the relation to everything is the Libra state of awareness. Libra state of awareness is divided into 3 decans of 10 days each, or 10 degrees each, or in my system, 10 steps each. The first decan, the first 10 steps, which is what we're stepping into starting tomorrow, those first 10 steps are your relationship to yourself. All right. And I'll talk more about that in a second. The next decan is your relationship to people, places, and things in daily life. And most popularly, it is our relationship to other people, the second decan of Libra. The third decan of Libra is our relationship to the future, our relationship to society, our relationship to big picture organizations and big concepts. So sort of relationship to the future and big things. Now, in that context, this is a very unique time with Libra consciousness because the south node, the lunar south node, is in Libra at 24 degrees. It starts at 25 and moves to 24 this week, just as the north node moves from 25 to 24, its opposite side. And when it moves to 24, it moves on to Aries, as I mentioned. So the north node says, okay, let's now focus on our personification of chaos, strife, and discord. So we sort of get that cue. But the south node at 25 and 24 Libra means that we're going to be leaving behind where we tend to get caught up in things. So it's not just that we're being called to stand up for our continued existence with the north node in Aries. We're being called to leave behind organizations and affiliations that no longer serve our interest. So you could say that on a spiritual astrological level, the entire population is going to go through a cancel culture sort of moment where we are called to leave and disassociate from big picture stuff. And by the way, we've seen a lot of this sort of unfolding once the North Node moved into Aries. Over the summer, there was a lot of boycotts to specific businesses, to specific brands, as sort of people saying, I'm not going to support these things anymore that are not in concert with my personal belief. So we've already seen a lot of cancelness, so to speak, if that's a word, happening at the big picture. Well, now that the sun moves into Libra tomorrow, we begin making this relationship part of our life prime importance, of course, for the whole transit in Libra. And that means that I think when you look at the fact that the North Node will hit Aries and the South Node is at Grandmaster step 24, any step number or degree that adds to a 6 is a pure relationship number. So I think that this week we really start to stand into a new relationship with ourselves. And as we stand in that new relationship with ourselves, it empowers us to leave the relationships that do not serve us, particularly the big picture relationships. The South Node has not, reached the second decan yet. So I don't think people will be leaving, friendships or those types of things like we saw during COVID, for instance, a lot of friendships breaking apart, a lot of neighbors no longer talking, a lot of conflict with people taking sides. I'm not really seeing that. I'm seeing more of a united front in the sense of people really being dismayed with major organizations and standing up for their personal, evolution and existence. So, cancelness. Yeah, I thank you very much. Yeah, I invent words. Saturn and Gemini, I feel like I have the right to invent words and expand the English dictionary. It's one of where my Leo rising maybe goes a little too far, but some of them have stuck, like mirage, for instance. That's a good segue to mirage. In this next, so where does that put us as individuals? Because I truly believe that collective consciousness is spiritual democracy, in the sense that if 51% of the world believes, for instance, that the sky is another color, I believe it might start to look like that shade. Perception is reality. So we don't realize it, but I believe that the reason why there are such incredible campaigns to control what people think. Have you thought about why is it that there's so much effort to control what people think, especially when there's literal control? I mean, at this point, we're very vulnerable. The world has control of our money very quickly. Money is mostly digital. The world has control of our houses. Mortgages are really, the bank owns the house. Technically, there already is control, and we already are allowing that control in our life. So why go to the extent of trying to convince? Why have propaganda? Why have commercials? And I think that's because there's an awareness and a knowing that people's conscious perception do contribute to the perception of society, that we are actually all participating in a global, let's say, spiritual net of collective conscious, that we all contribute to this collective conscious. Therefore, if you want to control collective conscious, you've got to control what the collective believes, in essence. Now, with that said, if we are to move forward and we are to create the life we've always wanted to live, if we are going to stand up for what we believe in life, and we're going to leave a better earth for our children, then the way we go about that has to be from a new deal with ourself. And I believe that is what the goal of this next week. I am titling this week, Rewriting Mirage Vows. Rewriting Mirage Vows. I look at a mirage, by the way. That's my little buzz term for our relationship to ourself. You are tied to this body until death do you part, and then you're still tied to your own conscious perspective after death. That's our mirage. We are, you could say, stuck with ourselves until the very end. And it's interesting because, especially here in the United States, I can't speak for the whole world, but we tend to be obsessed on our happiness based on things outside of ourselves. We tend to be based on happiness based on material goods, our social status, our ranking on social media, everything outside ourselves. And we have falsely given our power to money, to outside organizations, to other people's opinions. And we have forgotten where our true power really is, which is with ourselves. In fact, nowhere in my education, and by the way, I was raised all over the country. My father was a nuclear safety systems engineer in the 80s. So we moved all over the country. My dad setting up nuclear plant reactor protection systems, actually, pretty nuclear, our nuclear family. So I got to see a lot of this country and I got to know a lot of different people. That's one reason why I feel so comfortable on camera talking to people and relating to people, because I feel I know you. I've gone to school with you. I've been there. But in all the school districts I have been in, and it's too many to name on this broadcast, I can tell you I was never taught anything about how to be good to myself. I was never taught on how to bring the best out of myself. No one coached me on how to be a good partner and a good friend to myself. No one. My parents, television, media, film, schools, never. So I think that the secret really to becoming who we want to become, which is what we're here to do. We're here to be and experience who we are. Well, if you want to maximize on that, then one must make it a priority to enter into a profound relationship to ourselves. So in this next week, we're going to be looking at the very first degrees of our relationship to ourselves, our mirage. And specifically, we're looking at our relationship to our boundaries tomorrow, our relationship to our heart on Sunday, our relationship to our feelings on Monday, our relationship to our belief about ourselves on Tuesday. Sorry, I got lost there. Our relationship to how we approach ourselves, which would be on Wednesday, our relationship to how we think of ourselves on Thursday, and then on Friday, 1 week from tonight, we will have a full moon in Aries, at which point we will let go of our ego's attachment to the old mirage, and we will step into a new mirage with ourselves. So you have this next week to completely realign your relationship to yourself. And I will be speaking to this in our personal sensei service at Serious Joy. I'll be talking about how and coaching everyone into finding a better position and really looking at yourself. And I call it the fairy godmother approach. So we all become our own fairy godmother or fairy godfather, whichever you want to use as your example. And we need to look at ourselves like Cinderella before the ball. And we need to look and see at ourselves, what is it that my heart really needs from me? What do my feelings really need from me? What do my beliefs about myself really need from me? How can I make this person ready for the ball? How can I stand next to myself and support myself in areas where I know I'm not as strong? And how can I innovate this relationship so that I bring the best out of myself and I can shine the brightest that I can possibly be? To quote myself, to be the star that you really are. So this week, I believe that we will be rewriting our mirage vows. And in Serious Joy, we'll be literally talking about this. I'll be talking about in all the days of my pep talks about writing a new vow. I'm going to give this assignment, soul assignment, to our subscribers and talking them through how to write those vows. And then on the full moon, it will be let's say a mirage ceremony, if you want to go so far, next Friday, where you get remarried to yourself with new vows and new promises to yourself. And I'm going to, put out a 365-day challenge. Some people do 5-day challenges. I'm going to do a whole year challenge, a 365-day challenge to stand true to those mirage vows to yourself. I believe if we do stand true to those vows, we will set ourselves up for the most potential for our success, and we will likely end a lot of the spiritual karma we have with ourselves, which is one of the main themes going on right now with Saturn and Pisces. So the main theme of the week is that your heart is rewriting your marriage vows to yourself, making new promises to yourself based on what you see as your need. Now, what ends up happening is when the sun is in Libra, the earth is in Aries, and earth is what we manifest, right? And the full moon will conjoin Aries on Friday, which will be a release moment, basically, and a manifestation moment. As you change your marriage vows with yourself in Libra, you change your behavior to yourself in Aries. So we're going to end up crafting new response to ourselves. And as I like to speak to all the time, I believe that our real power is in how we respond to ourselves. And I want to really say, pay close attention. It does not matter that you make a mistake. It does not matter that you drop the ball with yourself or abandon yourself or do something to hurt yourself. What matters is what you do after when you realize it. Our response to ourselves is far more powerful than initiation. A lot of times you see with spiritual leaders, they talk about start this and vision board that and all these things about getting started and getting moving. When really, I would say 80% of our ability to change is not in the initiation of something new. It's in the response to something old. That we respond and continue to tolerate the old side of ourselves, that we respond and reinforce the bad behavior with ourselves or the negative behavior, that in our response to things happening, we don't take that opportunity to go higher, to go more loving, to go more compassionate, to go more supportive. So although we are initiating new promises with ourselves this week with the sun in Libra, we're also initiating new responses to ourselves with the earth in Aries. So it's now time to respond to yourself differently. And if you're in doubt about what the best response ought to be, my catchphrase is simply respond differently. Respond differently. You may not know the best response, but if you respond differently than you have in the past, you have just taken your spiritual vehicle out of the rut. You have just stopped the pattern. And if that second new response doesn't work, then respond differently the third time, and then respond differently the fourth time. So just continue to respond differently, and you will, finesse your way into the right approach with yourself. And that, I think, is what our action items are for the upcoming week. Now, a subplot of this week is changing of the guard. And this has to do with, yes, I'll get into this. My mind is like, should we go here? We should. Chiron is in Aries at 18 degrees right now. And what that means is that we are healing from times when we have made mistakes with ourselves. So Aries is chuck loaded with a whole bunch of stuff. The North Node is in Aries saying, hey, it's time to move forward. Eris is in Aries saying, hey, it's time to rise up in the big picture of the world and world power for the promise of peace. Step 24 is for the promise of peace. Didn't mention that, but I think now would be a good time to say that. 24 is for peace, for people to find peace. If it was at 27, I'd be really concerned about a major world conflict. But the root intention is peace, balance, and harmony with step 24. And we have Chiron in the mid degrees of Aries right now that's helping us to heal times when we have failed in the past. So this means that everyone is probably a little gun shy. Everyone is a little bit apprehensive about making a mistake again. And I just want to put out there that is completely normal for you to be concerned about making a mistake again. And if you get caught up in stifling yourself or holding yourself back or frozen, not able to move, you're not doing yourself any justice. You're better off trying again and failing again than you are at not trying. But because we have two different things going on with Chiron. We have Venus trining Chiron tomorrow on Saturday, and on Sunday we have Mars opposing Chiron. And this means that we are going to change how we guard or defend ourselves in daily life. It's time for a change of the guard. So you're going to change your response strategy to others. So it's really two different response strategies that are changed. The response strategy to ourselves and the response strategy to people in the outer world. And that's part of the theme that happens this week. The key question for you to ask yourself this week is, where does my ego say I surrender? Where does my ego say I surrender? Now, I'm not saying surrender to anything in the outer world. I'm saying, where do we surrender in our inner world? There are places in your life that you fight, that you resist, that you dig in your heels. And you probably fight, resist, and dig in your heels because you're trying to prevent some sort of outcome from happening. But we don't realize that resistance and fighting just creates persistence of the same problem. Ultimately, you want to find the path of least resistance. Resistance is the major cause of ego, of anger, of hurt, of jealousy. Resistance is the cause of bodily disease because resistance creates inflammation and inflammation creates disease. We shouldn't have to resist if we're on the right path in the first place. So ask yourself, where do I need to surrender the fight with myself? Am I fighting myself over, eating well? Am I fighting myself over stepping into my power? Am I fighting myself over stepping into my potential and my me-reach with myself? These are the questions that I think you want to ask this week, because the ego does need to stand down as far as the old way of treating yourself. If you were treating yourself really well, you probably wouldn't watch this show right now. You're probably off celebrating life, so busy with happiness and joy. Not that there's anything wrong with watching my show, but my point is that if our ego was on our side, we would be soaring. We would not be questioning for where's the issue, where's the problem. We would not be hurting. So our ego has not been in the right place, or we'd be a lot farther than we want to be. So for that sake, there are some places we need to stand down, and there are some places we need to stand up. And it can be either, and it's one of those things that's a case-by-case example. So let's look at the planets this week and what their spectrum of growth is going to be, starting with Libra energy. In the Libra sign, the sun this week moves from 0 to 6 degrees, from 0 to 6. So we move from 0 to 6 this week, and that is 0, what we protect ourselves and how we protect ourselves and our relationship to our own boundaries, all the way to step 6, which is the grand master step of relationship. In other words, stepping into a new relationship with ourselves. Now, what's interesting is Mars, the ruler of Aries. Now, this is sort of paradoxical, and I don't have time in this show to go into this week. Maybe next week I'll talk about this, but Mars is in its opposite sign. When you have energies in their opposite sign, they create a paradox. When you have a paradox, you can hop out of a conscious rut you have been in for a while. All miracles happen paradoxically if you study miracles. So having Mars in its opposite sign actually sets us up to be in a paradox where we're taking our ego energy and we're putting it into our relationship energy. It's like that old Reese's Buttercup commercial where it's like, my chocolate is in my peanut butter in my chocolate. It's the same thing. We're mixing these two flavors together. And what ends up happening is when you put Mars in Libra, you have the power to let go of relationships. If you put Venus in Mars, you also have the power to let go of ego stuff. So that said, Mars is in the teen degrees from 17 degrees to 21 degrees this week. And that means that our ego is going to really have an idea of how our relationships with day-to-day life and people need to go. So we're going to be trailblazing changes with relationships. And then by the end of the week, when Mars hits 21, we'll be trailblazing a new story that we have with relationships in the future. So we're sort of, I think, breaking ground to new relationships. And here's what's interesting about this dynamic is as you start to show up for yourself and really be your own best friend and your own best partner, then suddenly what you expect from your relationships changes. Again, a lot of us, particularly in America, expect the other person to be the one to take the first step or to be the one to apologize, or we're quite often we step out of our power because we're waiting for someone else to make a move on the chessboard. And I think a lot of that's because we're coming to the table empty. We're coming to the table unsupported. We're coming to the table not there for ourselves in the first place. So we find ourselves needy and wanting instead of in a place to really exchange on a fair level. And when you come to the table hungry or come to the table empty or hurting, not that we all do have pain, but you then put a stress on that relationship that's not fair. It's automatically tilted towards one side. So I believe that as we start to change our marriage vows, we're going to find that our promises to our friends and our family members and other people actually starts to shift because we're coming to the table a different person on the inside. And of course, this will take time to gel, but I do think we're going to see a lot of progress this week. Now, looking at the emotional side of life and the moon this week, the moon this week gets kind of serious at first. The moon starts in Capricorn tomorrow. the moon actually moves into Capricorn tonight. I'm not sure what time that happens. So the moon moves into Capricorn. And at that point, we're going to be feeling a lot of decisions and making up a lot of decisions about how we feel and deciding how we feel about things. So tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday, when we're looking at our relationship to ourself, our boundaries with ourself and our heart with ourself, we are going to be feeling, making decisions about how we feel. So the next 2 days is really, if you're in question about how you feel about something, you'll probably come to a clarity about how you feel by Monday when the moon moves into Aquarius. Then Monday, and Tuesday, basically, the moon is in Aquarius. And so we're going to start to feel over those 2 days, there'll be kind of detached days on Monday and Tuesday. A little bit, I call it underwhelming is going to be the case. If you notice, I said cloudy and underwhelming on Monday. I think on Monday and Tuesday, we're going to sort of feel a little detached, a little spacey, and we're going to be feeling about where do I belong? Particularly, where do I belong with myself? Do I belong being hard on myself? Do I belong being easy on myself? If I'm easy on myself, will I actually be responsible or will I not be responsible? So you're sort of feeling where you belong with yourself, where you belong in the context of the world, where you belong when it comes to your future. Then the moon moves into Pisces late Tuesday, Wednesday, and most of Thursday. And at that point, we do a real spiritual review and we start to really feel those days what our karma is with ourselves, or you could say what our patterns are. That we realize, oh man, now that I come to think of it, I really do have this pattern of abandoning myself. I really do have this pattern of being hard on myself. And then I get really mad when other people are hard on me because I've already been hard on myself. So you're going to come to some realizations about your patterns that you constantly live. And that does mean that there's a chance of mopiness Tuesday night and Wednesday, particularly on Wednesday, because you're not just feeling where things are in the present, you're also feeling your past. Pisces is access to the past, access to past lives, emotional access to our childhood. So everything from the past comes bubbling up in Pisces. But I believe it is that moon in Pisces that sets us up for the full moon in Aries, which happens on Friday next week. And it's very early. It's going to happen at 5:57 a.m. next Friday. So we'll already have apex by the time I go on the air next week. And that full moon in Aries, which I'll talk about more in our tea time horoscopes, that full moon in Aries is when your ego finally surrenders. I call it a surrendering full moon. That's when you wave the white flag and you say, that's it. I've just, decided how I felt with the moon in Capricorn. I decided where I belong. I've reviewed the tapes of how miserable I've been through my lifetime and in past lifetimes. I'm ready to quit fighting with myself. Full moon at 6 degrees Aries. 6 is surrender. So it's a surrendering full moon where your ego puts up the white flag and says, I'm going to stop being in my own way here and step up and be my friend instead of be my own enemy. And I think you could say, that's what we're moving this week. We're moving where we are our own frenemy. We'll call it a friendemy rather than enemy because that's a bit strong. Now, looking on to Virgo. In Virgo, we still have Mercury. Mercury is catching up in Virgo. Mercury goes from step 12 to step 20. It's starting to speed up at a rapid rate at this point. And this means that we're sort of thinking through the logistics of life this week. With Mercury at 12, you're going to open up to new daily lifestyle, new ways of doing things. So we're still tinkering with our tasks. We're still tinkering with our responsibilities with Mercury in those early degrees of Virgo. And by the end of the week, we're going to start thinking about our plans for the future. So as far as planning and processing, I would say keep it on your daily life. Basically, think about the things you have to do in daily life. We'll get to processing and planning the future next week. You can think about it, but I would spend those neurons and those electrons on thinking about your daily life. When it comes to Leo on our heart this week, Venus, which is also catching up from its retrograde, Venus moves from step 14 to step 18, which means that when Venus hits step 17, and that will be on, let's see, tomorrow? When Venus hits step 17, we commit, I'm looking at Mercury, we commit it's on Wednesday. So on Wednesday, our heart commits to something we want in our daily life. So if you've been thinking about whether or not you want to buy something or you want to ask somebody out or your heart wants to go for something like a career change or something, your heart will know around Tuesday, Wednesday, what your heart really wants, and it's out of daily life. So our heart is shopping right now for a better life, and Mercury is moving through the same 10 degrees in Virgo. So if you look at Venus and Mercury, Mercury in Virgo, Venus in Leo, each semi-sextiling from one another, it looks like we're making up our heart and making up our mind about daily life this week. So you're going to realize, okay, this is the life I want to live every day. I'm going to go ahead and commute. I'm not going to commute. I'm going to go ahead and do this. So a lot of lifestyle changes happening as we're realizing our new mirage to ourselves. Black Moon Lilith in Leo stays at step 28 for the entire week, which means that we are facing fears of things not turning out or not coming to terms. So it's very normal that you be afraid that it's not going to work out, afraid that it's not going to come to term, afraid that it's not going to find the financing. We have to face those fears with courage, with faith, with self-love. And don't forget, this is all about your mirage. So when the going gets tough, when things get really fearful, how do you respond to yourself? What is your response to yourself? Are you happy? Are you positive? Are you encouraging yourself? Are you discouraging yourself? Are you inflating yourself? Are you deflating yourself? So this fear is sort of a welcome test, I think, because it sort of reveals your good or negative behavior that you take with yourself. Now, when it comes to Pisces, I already mentioned this, we have Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, and this is one of the reasons why things are really changing for the better and forever. With Saturn in Pisces this week, it goes from step 2 back to step 1 Pisces. So Saturn goes from 2 to 1. This ultimately means that we're going to make new decisions with Saturn in Pisces for ending emotional patterns with ourself. Saturn and Pisces at 2. And when Saturn goes to 1, we're going to end certain heartfelt issues with the way we love ourselves. So with Saturn in these early degrees of Pisces, we are changing and taking responsibility for how it is that we love ourselves or don't love ourselves. And this is an end to a trend. So this mirage change in your life, you changing your relationship to yourself, it's not just bringing the best out of yourself, it's also ending the patterns you've had with yourself. And these patterns may go back to childhood. They may be your entire life you've known to always be negative or fall into an emotional slump about things or abandon your heart when you're hurting. And if you want to know what does abandoning my heart mean, it means that when your heart hurts, you pretend like it's not happening, or you go escape through video games or alcohol or escape through work, which would be my fault, by the way. I think we all have these vices. But it's now time with Saturn, these retrograde degrees, it's time to end these old patterns with ourselves. And because Saturn moves to step 1, we really get to the heart of the matter this week. And I'm looking to see, when does Saturn go to 1? Oh, Saturn goes to 1 actually tomorrow. So it's actually pretty quick that it happens, which is very exciting. Now, Neptune stays at a steady step 26 Pisces this week, which means that we are overall committing to a new destiny, a new direction that we want to take our spiritual life. And so I think as you futz with your relationship to yourself, as you move forward with the new lifestyle and with your heart wants in your lifestyle, you are in fact at the very top of Neptune and Pisces, committing to a new destiny. Now, in the energy of Taurus, we have Jupiter and we have Uranus both in Taurus, and they both are at a static step number. So with Jupiter at 14, you are coming to a new idea about your values this week. So there's a change in what you value. Maybe you used to value time off. Now you value time at work. Maybe you used to value going to the gym. Now maybe you value a little bit more of your recovery necessary after the gym. So we're shifting our values a little bit this week, and we're changing the way we think about our values. Uranus at 22 is going to be there for a while. We are at the same time innovating what that future process is. The last time Uranus was at 22 Taurus was during the first year of World War II. That was when we had the last big boom of industry and inventions and innovations in technology, unfortunately for the sake of war, but we're now there again. I think we're seeing that with AI. We're seeing that with streaming services. We're seeing that with digital currency, but we continue to innovate. So basically what Uranus says is, if you're going to make plans for the future, which I think you should wait till next week, but you can still think about it, of course, plan to do it better than ever. Plan to be an innovator, plan to be a disruptor, plan to be someone who changes the rules. Because if you're the one that changes the rules, you become the leader if it actually works, if it actually sells, and everyone has to follow you. That's the most powerful position to be in, which is what we've seen of the tech industry in Silicon Valley, for instance, in the last 15 years or so. And then Aries energy, I spoke to Aries. I'll speak to this just really quickly. We do have Chiron and Aries at 18 degrees. So we are doing a changing of the guard, changing of how we behave in our daily life. I think this is supported by Mercury in the mid degrees of Virgo and supported by Venus in the mid degrees of Leo. So there's definitely this week a changing of the guard, a changing of how you do things day to day, a changing of what your heart invests in, a changing in the way you think about your daily life. So, I think we're going to see a change of daily life. This kind of change is sort of typical in Virgo, that back to school energy where you're into a new routine and you're into a new sort of way of life every year. If you remember growing up, that's sort of the energy I think we're going to be seeing this week. It's almost like we're going back to school here in the last week of September. We're starting to see the new life begin to unfold. The North Node, as I mentioned, goes from 25 to 24. And of course, we have the full moon that happens this week in Aries as well, which will be at step 6 on Friday. And then lastly, I'll just point it out one more time. We do have in Capricorn, Pluto retrograde at 27 degrees Capricorn, and Pluto retrograde at 27. Again, that is at its return to the United States. Pluto return 27 does mean action. So I am expecting to see some, big conflicts of power. As I mentioned, we're seeing that right now in Congress over, I think, the budget and a government shutdown. Of course, it's deja vu. We've been there many times, but that's just one example where I think we're going to see a bit of a power struggle at the top. So those are the planets for this week. Let's take a quick look at the planets and look at the planets and some of the aspects going on this week. I am running a little behind today, so I'm going to try to make this a little quicker than usual, so we have plenty of time for our T horoscopes. Again, stay tuned for Scott Cruz. He's going to be on a little later talking with Astro Mingle, talking about his abilities. All right, so starting with Saturday, the first thing that happens of note to me that's interesting is Venus trining Chiron. All right, and the Venus trine of Chiron is a move windows around here on my desktop. Venus is at 18 degrees. This happens tomorrow, Saturday, September 23rd. Early in the morning, so really it sort of sets up the theme for the day, but that's the sort of feeling to get moving with your daily life. So if you've been putting off stuff in your daily life, putting off signing up for something, putting off moving forward with something, you really feel that kick in the butt to get moving on Saturday. Saturday's going to be a busy day, lots of things happening. And again, Chiron at 18 is us healing a time when we maybe were a jackass or made a fool out of ourselves. So this is like your second go at it. And like I said, the best way to heal up the past is to create a better future. So move forward starting tomorrow with those new plans for day-to-day life. Then on Sunday, another aspect to Chiron, one day later, Mars at 18 degrees Libra opposes Chiron at 18 degrees Aries. So it's this Saturday, Sunday 2-4 that is the changing of the guard. I think we change what we do. We change how we guard ourselves. Mars at 18 means we're going to go in a new direction with relationships. We're going to take some sort of daily relationship or move forward with the relationship. You might move forward in the sense of like taking it to the next level. You might move forward with ending a relationship. You might sign up for a service or sign up for something. It may even be a relationship to the bank because you're taking out a loan. Probably won't be on Sunday, but we are moving forward with that relationship. Notice White Lilith at 19 degrees, actually. White Lilith is the healer of Black Moon Lilith. She moves to 29. Oh, actually, she moves to 29. I just realized I made a little mistake there, having her at 28. My bad. But this means, again, it's the same fear, the fear of failure, the fear of catastrophe, the fear of our heart won't get what it wants. But White Moon Lilith says, hey, just manifest the positive relationships in your life and you won't be afraid of things all falling apart. 28 and 29 are basically the same thing, but 29 is a bit more dramatic. So I just raised the DEFCON level for the week. It's suddenly gone down. Well, actually it goes down, doesn't it? When we're closer to nuclear war. So nuclear war DEFCON goes down a little bit weak. That adds a little bit more stress than I had set out to be. Funny how one typo typo can change the legacy of thousands. All right. The next key date is Mercury trining Jupiter. This happens on Monday. Mercury up in Virgo at 14 degrees Virgo. This is our mind. I talked about how our mind is really kind of reconciling with all of our tasks and duties and things that we have to do in our daily life. And Mercury trining Jupiter says you're going to be basically coordinating your details of life with your investments of life, your values of life, what you want to manifest in life. So this, again, these are the teen degrees. So this is us getting our shift together in daily life. Again, the main narrative are the sun in the early degrees of Libra. That's the main narrative. That's where your heart is. The sun is our heart. So your heart is all in how you treat yourself. So although you are working on, cleaning up your daily life or moving forward with your daily life, the question is, who are you to yourself in the process? When you're stuck on that DMV line, are you being good to yourself or are you being hard on yourself? When you're having to, tell somebody bad news because the relationship is changing, are you being supportive to yourself or are you making it harder on yourself? That's the real story this week of how you are being to yourself. And I think with each of these daily lifestyle things, these all put your relationship to yourself or your mirror to yourself to the test. And then the final chart of the week, holy moly, I did it right at the top of the hour. I'm happy with myself as far as catching up, is the full moon. The full moon, of course, 6 degrees Aries, 6, the number of Libra. So this is a Grandmaster. The sun is at Grandmaster step 6 Libra. Step 6 is your mirage. So, if you want to know a little tip here, 6 degrees of every sign. They always say 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, for instance. 6 degrees of every sign is your relationship to yourself. So 6 degrees Scorpio is your relationship to your boundaries. 6 degrees Sagittarius is your relationship to your beliefs. 6 degrees Capricorn is your relationship to your self-discipline. 6 Aquarius is your relationship to your friendship to yourself. Whereas Leo is how you love yourself. So this means that we are defining, when you hit the same number of the same sign, you make a major definition. Because a full moon happens at the moment of this major Grandmaster step in Libra, tells me this is a major shift in policy, that you are making a major change, major as in the first time in a decade, the first time in 20 years, the first time in your life, a major shift of where you're telling your ego in Aries to stand down. 6 is stand down. 6 Aries is your relationship to your ego. And ultimately we're saying, okay, it's time for the ego to stand down, to give up, to surrender, some sort of resistance, some sort of fight. This does mean that as the moon moves through Pisces and becomes full in Aries, that you might be in a hell of a fight with yourself, by the way, which would be Tuesday night, Wednesday, and half of Thursday, and maybe even early Friday. It may be a big fight with yourself, spinning around, chasing your tail, so to speak, for you to realize that you need to give up the fight. The problem isn't what you're trying to do. The fight is what you've been resisting and what you've been trying not to do. And quite often, the removal of the obstacle is the greatest way for progress. Quite often, it's not about like spending more money. It's about, spending less, making cuts to certain investments. In this case, making cuts to our ego's investment with ourself, where our ego fights ourself. By the way, if you feel like fighting with someone else, you are wasting your time, my friend. If you want to fight with someone else, do it next week. Okay. Like when the sun's in the teen degrees. But you are projecting if you try to fight with someone else right now. You might be blaming. You are failing to take responsibility for your relationship to yourself. Even if a person is being really negative to you and not treating you well, it's not about how they're treating you. It's about the fact that you are tolerating it and you are staying in that situation. We don't have to have conflict in order to move forward. Sometimes we can bow out, and that's the best way to go about it. All right. We are running on clock. I'm super excited. With all that said, now I think it's time to talk about you and the 12 signs. Go steep yourself some tea, my friend, and let's have our tea time. All righty, we're back. I'm always moving things around. I feel like I'm caught on camera. It's like a 70s joke there. All right, for this week, we're going to talk about for all 12 signs. I'm going to give you some pep talk in here for all 12 signs on 4 areas like I always like to talk about. First, I'm going to talk about where in life you are making new marriage vows. Now, something I want you to be conscious of is that wherever Libra is in your chart as a sun sign, this is how you base your relationship on yourself. Aries is the only sign that directly looks at themselves. Aries is the unfiltered sign. They are purebreds of the zodiac. They do things purely. They don't cloud it with other things. So an Aries directly looks, Libra for them is directly looking at their relationship to their self. But Taurus, their relationship to their self is based on their health. And Gemini, their relationship to their self is based on their inner child and their heart. And let's just say Capricorn, their relationship to themselves is based on their career and their responsibilities in life. So recognize that there's a portal in which you approach your relationship to yourself. In each of the 12 signs, I'll speak to what that portal is, just like I gave little nuggets just now. Then I'll talk about what the full moon surrender is for you. Where are you surrendering a fight with yourself? Then I'll talk about Venus and Leo. Where are you launching new creative love with yourself? Where are you trying to be, I talked about moving forward with our heart's desires in daily life, our heart picking out that favorite car, our heart asking that person out. Where are you engaging with your heart this week and moving forward with your heart this week? And then lastly, I'll talk about Chiron and Aries, which is where there's going to be a change of guard. So where are you changing your guard or changing your strategy in life with Chiron and Aries as a result of the Venus trine to Chiron and the Mars opposition to Chiron? And as always, we will start with the Aries. And I'm going to take a little sip of water here. I need to make my tea time drink. This live stuff is a little tough. Aries, you are, of course, changing your marriage vows to yourself. You're the purebred of the zodiac. And so you are looking at how to relate to yourself. Now, there's a lot going on in your sign. We got Eris in your sign. So the day you were born, you got the North Node in your sign. You got Chiron on your sign. You're in major reconstruction, man or woman. And so you've got to, I think a lot of your relationship to yourself is based on all the phenomenal changes that have been going on. And perhaps, I think Aries always try to be the strong one. And sometimes they try to fight for things that their heart's not really aligned with. So, you really are, I think, out of all the 12 signs, probably finessing your relationship to yourself one of the most, because you've been through so much and you really are changing. So, Aries are very outward focused in their life. They rule action, they rule energy, they rule war, they rule, character, they rule charisma. And so quite often you're very outwardly focused. So I think, what's the secret to changing an outwardly focused person? Their inner focus. So changing how you relate to yourself is the magical bean that will grow the beanstalk you're looking for. That full moon in Aries on Friday is you surrendering with a fight with yourself, where you fight with yourself, literally fight with yourself about going to the gym, fight with yourself about eating right, fight with yourself about, whatever. So it's time to end some fight with yourself that's in the way of having better marriage vows with yourself. With Venus and Leo, it is time to go forward with the creative idea. It's time to go forward with your heart's desires. It's time to go forward with asking someone out, making that move in your heart. It is time to make that move. I do think it's a very good time for new relationships, by the way, especially for you, but you might also be ending relationships with the South Node in Libra. So it may be that that move is to say it's no longer working. That's possible as well. Both could be possible right now. Let's say changes in love affairs or changes in creativity. And that probably happened with Venus retrograde, that you realized it wasn't working, by the way. And then Chiron in your sign means that you are healing past failures of behavior, where your ego went too far, where you said too much, where you pushed too hard, or where you failed to stand up or failed to be counted. So really healing, character mistakes that you've made, actions that you've made. By making the right action, you correct for the times when things were wrong. Tauruses are now changing their marriage and their relationship to their health. And that literally is, how you eat, how you drink. Are you getting enough water on the breaks? I'm talking to myself here. Ultimately you are changing everything in the way you approach your body. And, Tauruses, I know you have an attitude, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But, we're always aging. And right now there's so many chemicals and things in our environment. You've got to protect yourself in ways that you just simply didn't have to back in 1950. So I think everyone every year needs to look at their health, no matter how healthy they are, and see where you can improve. And that may mean that you need to move more or change your diet, but be a better friend to your body is really how everything works. When you're a friend to your body, everything works, Taurus. When you're not, everything does not. The full moon will be you surrendering a fight with a fear that you have. So you have some sort of fear that's maybe been able to control you, and now you're giving up that fight with the fear, which means you're surrendering and moving to faith instead. So it's time to surrender the fight with fear and instead side with faith, side with your intuition, side with what your gut is telling you. When it comes to moving forward with your creative drive, this will be with home or family issues. So time to make choices around your home, time to make choices about family, time to make choices about caring for your feelings in a better way. And that caring for your feelings may be simply that you give yourself more time and space before you do something. It may be that you give yourself distance from certain people that upset you, but moving forward to care about your feelings more than you have in the past. That also helps you, and it helps you with your health. And Chiron in Aries says that you are now basically going to do you're basically facing a major karmic wound. So there's a changing of the guard about how it is that you have been responding to something karmic. Now, karmic is very difficult to kind of put your thumb on. You could say self-sabotage when you shoot yourself in the foot, when you open your mouth, and a lot of times karma comes out by accident. We end up doing something that we just weren't thinking. Our subconscious took over. So you're healing some sort of mistake you made subconsciously, or you're healing some sort of a karmic trend you've had in your life. If you're awake to your spirituality, then you know what your karma is, but you're now making a change of the guard, how it is you protect yourself or guard yourself around this karmic behavior. Geminis are changing their relationship to their heart and their inner child. So the way you manage your marriage is through the heart. And, Geminis tend to be thinking more than they are feeling. So you want to get deep on how your heart feels and what your inner child is telling you and how to support your inner child. Supporting your inner child means supporting your creativity, supporting your playful side, supporting your the parts of life that you enjoy. If you enjoy making models in the garage, then that is you having a relationship to your inner child. You're giving yourself joy. You're feeding your inner child. You're feeding your heart. So changing your marriage, your relationship to your heart. The full moon in Aries means you're going to have to surrender some sort of position you've held as far as the way you friend yourself in the world. So who are you for yourself in the world? Are you the person that gives up on yourself in the world? Are you the person that fights for yourself in the world? Are you the person who promotes yourself in the world? But there's some sort of fight. Maybe you've been fighting about taking that stage. Maybe you've been fighting about raising your hand in class. Maybe you've been fighting about claiming what's yours. But whatever that fight is, it's time to surrender that fight in the world, or surrender that fight with yourself about being there for yourself in the world. So it's public, it's not personal. That's the distinction. So it's really a personal and public change for Geminis. You're moving forward with Venus and Leo in new ideas. So some idea you have, some creative project you have, some communication. This would be if you're interested in someone, this would be the time to speak up and let them know that you're interested in them. So move forward and say, hey, I really dig you. Let's hang out. Go forward, use your own Gemini words there. And with Chiron and Aries, you are healing some sort of world reputation blunder that you once had, whether that was, going too far on Facebook and finding yourself in Facebook jail, or, you said too much at someone's party or whatever, some sort of screw up that probably, it's like sort of like being seen in your underwear at school, one of those dreams, something where you humiliated yourself or something. It's time to guard yourself differently or do something different about that, okay? And to let that part of you heal so you can really blossom and bloom in society as you're meant to. Cancers are in a very powerful position here because they're changing their relationship to their feelings. And overall, Cancers have probably the best relationship to their feelings out of all the zodiac signs. But still, I think Cancers have quite often given their power of their emotion to their long-term relationships, which is represented by Pluto and Capricorn. They've allowed their feelings to be hijacked through the people they care for that don't care for them back. So this might be you reclaiming your power with your relationships and returning to your natural instincts when it comes to how to treat yourself better. But it's a change in your relationships, your relationship to your feelings. with the full moon in Aries, you're going to surrender the fight with some sort of responsibility, or the fight of avoiding a responsibility. So this would be a responsibility to yourself, by the way, not to the world. So you've been maybe fighting yourself about, filling out the paperwork, fighting yourself about, cleaning out something that you've been wanting to clean out. It's like something where you've been avoiding and fighting your responsibility. It's time to give up that fight and just do it and take responsibility for it. Venus in Leo says that you're moving forward with some business idea or revenue stream, moving forward with some ability to create money or to create finances. So that's a good thing, moving forward with money and finance. And Chiron in Aries says you're going to heal. You're having a change of the guard about your career and your leadership abilities. So somewhere you were guarded in your career, or you regarded your career as something, you're going to change the guard. There's a changing of the guard of how you defend or act in your career. You once had some sort of a career blunder, maybe got fired, maybe the company failed, maybe, something you tried to do didn't work. And so now it's time to kind of change how you guard yourself in that regard, and to move forward in a way to heal career and take another stab at, your leadership abilities. Leos, you are changing your relationship to your mind. So the way you think about yourself, the thoughts you allow to say to yourself, the words you use to talk to yourself, this is the change, that you're going to change how you relate to your own mind. If you think of yourself as dumb or silly or crazy or whatever, it's time to erase those, because you're just programming yourself into negativity. So stop that programming. The full moon in Aries means that as you're changing the relationship to your mind, you're surrendering a fight around believing in yourself. Somewhere where you've failed to believe in yourself, you refuse to believe in yourself, or you sabotage. I should have said that for everyone. You sabotage belief in yourself, and no longer should do that. So your ego needs to, surrender the fight to believe in yourself. And it may be in general, believe in yourself, or it might be a small thing like believe in yourself in relationships, believe in yourself at work. So it might be a minor demographic of your consciousness, not the whole conscious awareness. And with Chiron and Aries, there's a change of the guard about what you believe. Maybe you were very guarded about believing in something, refusing to believe, maybe refusing to look at the evidence, maybe refusing to do the research, but claiming that or maybe you were once, you're ignorant, so you just aren't looking at it anymore and you're just not going there. Maybe you're avoiding education, you're avoiding going back to school or something because you are guarded over the fact that you once you failed in that area. And that, of course, has a big impact on the way you think about yourself as well. They may go hand in hand. So, doing a change of the guard about beliefs, wisdom, education, excuse me. I think I got a little bit. Yes, exactly. Actually, what I realized here is I just made a mistake with, I just realized I screwed up here. We did not go to Leo, and I looked at Leo. So there's a changing of the guard here with career and leadership is what it is here, Cancer. I'm sorry. So you're changing where your guard is with your career. You're changing with your guard, changing your guard with where your career and legacy is going. There was a time when that didn't work, and there was a time where it's now supposed to work. Sorry about that. So with Leos, sorry about that, folks. I had a mishap here, changing in my guard. Leos, you have to, again, with believing yourself, that was the change of where you have an issue with letting up the fight. But when it comes to your beliefs in education, this is where you're going to change your guard. Sorry, I had a little mind fart there where I thought I was in Cancer when I wasn't. Went to another reality there. Sorry, folks. So sorry, Your Majesty. So to be clear with Leo, so I'm very clean about this. Your relationship to your mind is changing. Maybe it's because of a Leo rising. I got a little personal there. You're changing your relationship to your mind. You're surrendering the fight with believing in yourself. You are going to move forward with a new interactivity and a new behavior. That's where I made the mistake, as I went to Cancer with that. So the Venus direct in Cancer and Leo is saying it's now time to change your interaction, your behavior, the way you interact with people, and change the guard over a belief or stubbornness with belief. Now I see what happened. I skipped over. Thank you, folks. I apologize that for Leos. I love you. Virgo. Woo-wee. Virgo, you're now having a new mirror to yourself when it comes to your relationship to your values. So Virgo energy does not always, and this goes for Virgo rising as well. Thank you, Jill Louise. Thank you, everyone, for your forgiveness. I do make mistakes. This just proves that I'm human too, which I love to also, prove. My ego loves that too. Virgos, you're changing the way what you value. So maybe you have valued like certain aspects of yourself, and your mirage is all based on how you value yourself and how you don't value yourself. So in some cases, I don't think you give yourself enough credit. I think in your relationship to yourself, you throw yourself under the bus a lot of times. I think a lot of times when you are relating to yourself, you don't give yourself credit that you deserve, that you're kind of hard on yourself and kind of critical of yourself. So I think when it comes to, mirage and your relationship to yourself, Virgos, I think, can be the hardest on themselves over all the zodiac signs I've noticed. Now, the full moon in Aries would be, you're going to surrender some sort of fight you have with boundaries. So you're probably being stubborn with yourself somewhere. You're probably being, refusing to budge with yourself. You're funny with boundaries, and if Virgo holds on to a boundary, like they're ready to take that to the wall. They're ready to take that to death. But the full moon says, hey, it's time to open up and accept something inside yourself, or it's time to close down and stop allowing something for you to happen. So you'll find that you're going to really be able to change your relationship to what you value when you let go of a stubbornness you have around boundaries and stubbornness around trusting or not trusting. It may be that you refuse and you're fighting to not trust yourself. You're not letting yourself trust yourself. You're not going with the trust for yourself. So that full moon is a surrender over a personal boundary with yourself, but you'll find that you can really value yourself more and feel more valuable, or you could say have better self-worth when you surrender that fight to with yourself and personal boundaries. Now, Venus direct in Leo says your heart now is going to move forward with friendship plans, social life, a reputation thing that you're going to do, like some sort of a campaign, an advertising campaign, but you're going to now move forward. Your heart's ready now to go forward and do something in the world. You're getting the green light that it's absolutely time to do that. And with Chiron in Aries, it's now time to change the guard around trust and intimacy with other people. So this might go hand in hand with the full moon. Once you realize, hey, I can trust myself, well, now I can trust this person. Or now that I trust myself, I know this person is full of BS. So they could go together, that full moon and the Chiron change of guard. But you're going to have a change of guard about what you open up to, maybe who you are intimate with, maybe your boundary with someone else. And ultimately, with Venus going forward, your heart is now ready to move forward with what you have faith in and what you want to do most. Again, I keep making this little mistake. Venus is actually in spirituality and karma for you. So moving forward with what you have faith in, and by moving forward with what you have faith in, that may mean that you close the door to someone else, and that may mean that you change a door with yourself. All right, stumbling tonight. Libras. I'm going to do something here. Here we go. Libras are actually changing their relationship to the way they respond to themselves. Because you are Libra, this is going to be a major change for you, because the full moon is at step 6. It's a grandmaster step for you. And so this all comes down to how you respond to yourself. Remember, I talked about earlier in the show that response is a big piece of our power, the way we respond. For you, this is the ultimate truth. For Libras, it's all about response and how you respond. And, Libras classically are passive aggressive in the sense that, they tend to sort of not really respond in kind. They sort of half respond, right? Well, that's also the case with you. Sometimes with you, you kind of go halfway. You sort of are passive aggressive about the way you respond to yourself. So this moment this week is about stepping up and responding yourself in a whole new way. The full moon in Aries is going to be you surrendering to some fight you have with yourself. Maybe you've been fighting with yourself about going back to school. Maybe you've been fighting with yourself, making yourself stay in a relationship that doesn't work for you. Maybe you've been fighting with yourself and not taking care of you before you take care of others. But somewhere your ego has been resisting and being stubborn to yourself. And this is keeping you from really shining and being the star that you really are. So it's a relationship to how you respond to yourself that's changing in your mirage. And it's a surrendering to fighting with yourself in the big picture of things. Now, Venus in Leo is saying, hey, it's time to move forward with friendships, social life, what you want to do in the world, public reputation, where you want to be in the public. So you're getting a green light to be out there in the public, which is what I said to Virgos, which is also true for Virgos, but for a different reason. Thank God the planets support it. But you are now you're getting the green light now. Remember, the Venus retrograde in Leo was maybe a change of heart about where you want to live or how you want to be or who your friends are or what your reputation is or what your brand is going to be. So Venus moving forward this week says, okay, daily life in the public, this is now ready to move forward. And where you're changing the guard with Chiron and Aries is you're changing your guard in relationships. So this is a very big deal. I suspect that Libras are going to have a major relationship change somewhere in their life. Could be something, non-personal. So it might be something like relationship to a vendor, or relationship to a store, or relationship to your work. But it could also be, a personal relationship, because Chiron represents a time where something has not worked and where we have failed. So this is you maybe changing your guard in your relationships, whether you are overguarded or underguarded. I want to put both on the table there. Perhaps you're not guarding yourself enough in the relationship. So a change of guard in relationships. But notice that likely happens because you change your relationship to how you respond to yourself. If you're having a hard time, Libra, in a given relationship, it may be because you're not treating yourself properly on the inside. And so you don't really have the strength and the support to stand up for what you need in your relationships in the outer world. So for Libras, a lot of relationship changes and moving forward with a new place in society, which, by the way, may be that you are divorced or you are married or you are pregnant and becoming a parent. Scorpios. Scorpios are changing their relationship to faith and intuition. So, this may be that you have allowed fear to rule you. This may be that you have not given enough credit to your faith. Your relationship to faith may be sort of hot and cold, that you only look for faith when things are going poorly, but when things are going well, you don't return to spirit. You don't return to your faith. You don't return to your spiritual knowing. So I think Scorpios are going to have a major sit down with their shadow, or sit down with the boogeyman in their life, and they're going to really face that and change and come up with a new deal with how to deal with faith and how to deal with facing fears. The full moon is going to be that you surrender to some sort of fight or resistance you've had with your health. So this may be that you have been fighting stress, or you've been fighting your weight, or you've been fighting, and this isn't to say you're going to give up per se. I'm not saying give up your fight to be healthy, but you might be fighting yourself over something, and you might find a more peaceful way of going about it. Maybe you're being too extreme with the way you are dieting. Maybe you're being too hard on yourself in the gym and you need a day to rest. So it's time to surrender some sort of fight with health or fight with stress and have a new relationship to faith. Venus direct in Leo at 18 degrees says it is now time to move forward in your heart with your career plans and your leadership plans. I've known a lot of Scorpios have had major career changes here since Venus went retrograde in Leo. So it could be a new career birth that's happening. And Chiron and your change of guard is in your relationships. So Scorpios have had your relationship, to daily life. So Scorpios are growing very much in their relationships to others, but your relationship to life, you've been a little stinted, okay? You've probably made mistakes by choosing the wrong career or choosing the wrong job, or you've allowed like the family to take over your personal life or something in daily life. You have been guarded, and it's time to change that guard in daily life. And that can play out in your daily life at home, your daily life at work, your daily life alone with yourself, a changing of the guard. Sagittariuses are redefining their relationship to their own inner friendship. So who they are to themselves and with themselves in the world. Basically, how we friend ourselves determines the type of people we attract. So if we are hard on ourselves, we attract people who are hard on us. If we are good to ourselves and stand by ourselves or stick up for ourselves, then the world supports that as well. People intuitively fall under the spell of the way we treat ourselves. So you're coming a new relationship really to the public, a new relationship to who you are in public, a new relationship to the way you present yourself in public. This is sort of your disposition to the world based on your position with yourself on the inside. So it's a new marriage new marriage vows to who you be in the world and how you be in the world on the simplest level. You'll get to the more complex level as the transit moves forward. The full moon in Aries is you're going to surrender some sort of fight you've had with your heart. You've been fighting your heart over something. Maybe, telling your heart you can't have it, or you're fighting your heart instead of going along with your heart, or perhaps you're afraid that what your heart wants will not be accepted by the world, and you've been fighting your heart and holding yourself back. This is definitely like sort of the case you hear sometimes with people who are who haven't come out yet and said that they were gay or they were gender fluid or something like that. You might have been fighting on the inside, fighting for against what your heart wants. So you're giving up and no longer fighting your heart about something that your heart wants, or fighting your heart as maybe blaming yourself and saying you're unlovable. That would be a fight with your heart. So it's time to be who you really are in society. It's time to end some sort of fight you're having with heart, maybe creativity, but most likely the heart. With Venus direct in Leo, it's now time to march forward with what you believe. It's time to march forward with school, education, march forward with travel plans, march forward with wisdom gaining. So that can be literally getting into a program, subscribing to a school of thought, like you're going to now live by a certain belief or live by a certain motto, so to speak, but you're moving forward with a theory, a belief, or education. Chiron's changing of the guard is again the heart. So your heart has been guarded, maybe from a broken heart from a past relationship or your marriage. Maybe your heart has been broken because you've had a falling out with your kids, but you're ultimately going to have a change of guard about your heart. So a lot of change of heart for Sagittariuses. And when I look at it, it looks like their heart has been fighting themselves over something because their heart has been hurt from something else. That hurt might have been a creative project, a child, or a love affair. So a changing of the guard around love, creativity, and of the heart. Capricorns. Capricorns are creating a new relationship to their responsibility to themselves and their responsibilities in life. So maybe you have made your responsibilities the only thing, and you've made it like the most important thing in your life. And so it's maybe dominated, your relationship to career has dominated your whole life. Maybe you have been very, very self-motivated when it comes to career, but not very self-motivated when it comes to your health. So it's time to change how you are responsible to yourself. It's time to change your relationship to decision making. Maybe you have overthought your decisions and been too hard on yourself when you decide. Maybe you've been too light and haven't taken your real decisions seriously. Maybe you didn't weigh against your heart when you made decisions. So you're changing your relationship to how you make decisions and how it is that you are responsible for yourself. We're talking about self-discipline, a new relationship to self-discipline. Now, the full moon in Aries means you're surrendering some fight with your feelings. So maybe you have feelings for someone and you've been fighting it. Maybe you've been hurt and you've been fighting it by pushing away those hurt feelings. Maybe you're still hurt over your childhood and you haven't let those things go. It was 30, 40, 50 years ago, and you're still fighting with your feelings about the way you were raised. So it's time to surrender some sort of fight that you've been having with your feelings and really take responsibility for yourself in a new way. Venus direct in Leo says you're now moving forward with your personal boundaries, a new way of writing rules, maybe moving forward with a sexual intimate partnership. So maybe taking the next step to get closer to someone. Maybe you're going to move forward and cut something off. Maybe you're going to end up ending a relationship or canceling something in your life. But it's time to now move forward with the boundaries that your heart wants. Whatever your heart wanted, move forward and take advantage of that. Chiron, changing of the guard, has to do with your home and your family life. So due to your childhood, due to your life with the kids, due to your home life, something you made a mistake somewhere and you've been guarded a certain way when it comes to your home and your family and your day-to-day feelings. And it's time to do a change of the guard, a change of the perspective of how you approach your feelings, approach your family, or approach your home life. So a change of guard at home. Aquarius. Aquariuses are changing their relationship to their believing in themselves. Okay. So Aquariuses are kind of funky about the way they believe in themselves. It's interesting because I think that they really believe in themselves 100%, but Aquariuses are so hyper aware of society and others and friendships and things like that that I think there's a constant compare and contrast going on. And Aquariuses know that they are eccentric. They are different birds, that they fly, they march to a different beat of a different drum. And so because they are so different, I think Aquariuses haven't always fully believed in themselves. I think if you, if you demanded them to tell you, like, what do you believe? An Aquarius will say, okay, I believe in myself, but I don't know if it's 100%. I don't know if it's through the test of time. And I've said that we can't have the age of Aquarius without Aquariuses. And the first step of stepping into that power in the age of Aquarius is to really believe in yourself. So it's time to really be behind yourself in every facet of your day, in every part of your life, to believe and to get rid of whatever keeps you from believing. Now, that full moon surrendering fight is surrendering in an argument with yourself in your mind. You've been fighting something in your mind. You've been fighting yourself in your mind. You've been maybe, shift talking yourself in your mind. So this full moon is a surrender, no longer fighting in your mind with yourself about something. And it could very well be that fight in the mind is what's keeping you from believing wholeheartedly. So perhaps by surrendering the mind to the mind games, no longer allowing the mind games to happen, no longer allowing the fight in your mind to happen, it'll probably trailblaze the potential for you to really believe 100% and wholeheartedly. Oops, I think we popped on a little early here with Mr. Cruz. Mr. Cruz will be right with you.
Thank you. Trying to find a way to get that off of there.
That's all right. It's been one of those nights, brother. I'm actually talking about Aquarius right now.
Perfect.
So I love the purple dose. There we go. Perfect. That was a great introduction for him. I think that was our fault, actually. So our bad. So Aquarius is, and thank you for illustrating that. Believe in yourself, Scott, even though you just jumped in. Now, the surrender of the mind is happening with the full moon in Aries. With Venus going direct, you're now moving forward with your heart, going forward with relationship changes. So you've gone back and forth about relationships to something, Aquarius. Maybe that was a relationship to a person in particular. Maybe it's been your relationship to a job. I know a lot of Aquas that have been ready to hop ship and jump ship, basically, from a particular job. They've been back and forth about it. But Venus is saying, hey, go forward and follow what your heart wants in relationships and what you want to do in relationships. The Chiron changing of the guard has to do with a way of thinking. So your thinking at large to other people in other situations has been guarded. So somewhere you have been guarded around maybe sharing stuff about yourself, maybe been guarded about telling someone something. Maybe you've been afraid of saying the wrong thing. Chiron and Aries would suggest that you once upon a time said the wrong thing, said too much, maybe we're afraid to speak your truth. But the planets are saying, hey, it's time for a change of guard about the way you think, the way you communicate, and what you end up sharing with the world. So for Aquariuses, it is a new relationship to believing in yourself. It is surrendering the fight with your mind. It's moving forward with where you know you need to be in relationships. And it's time to change the guard when it comes to communication or your attitude. And then finally, the Pisces. Pisces, you are changing your relationship to your own inner boundaries. So where you draw the line with yourself, that's what's changing. You need a new framework to trust yourself and to be there for yourself. You need a new framework of what you open up to with yourself and what you don't open up to with yourself. It's time now to find a boundary structure with yourself. Like, it could be something as simply as cutting out dairy, but could also be something more profound, like cutting out, beating up on yourself. So for Pisces, you need new relationship to how you draw the line with yourself. And I got to say, Libra energy is not the firmest energy to manage boundaries. So you're already dealing with a very wishy-washy energy when it comes to boundaries. It's all based on balance and fairness and feeling things just right. And this is why, Pisces tend to find themselves in trouble at times when they don't want to be. Now, the full moon in Aries is a surrender to fighting yourself over what you are worth. So you're going to let go of some sort of fight you have about self-worth, self-esteem, some sort of fight you have when it comes to giving yourself credit for things. It's time to give yourself the credit you deserve. It's time to stop putting yourself down or degrading yourself, something like that, and to surrender the fight around self-worth This could be the fight around money, but if you're having issues with money, Pisces, it's rooted in a self-worth issue. So change that. Let go of that fight and surrender to new boundaries that refuses to go there, basically. Now, the Venus direct at 18 degrees is saying, hey, it's time to move forward with a new daily lifestyle. It's time to move forward with how you work, new habits, new routines. It's maybe a new job, maybe a new gym, maybe a new neighborhood, but it's all new in daily life. So go forth what your heart wants in daily life and don't look back. And with Chiron now having a change of the guard, this is a change of the guard of how you are guarded around money or finances. So maybe the way you invest your money, you've been very guarded. Maybe you've been very guarded about your debt. You've been freaking out about your credit card debt or something like that. Maybe you've been very guarded about manifesting something like your own business. Maybe you've been very guarded about some sort of product that you want to manifest, like you want to create something, but you've been a little afraid of doing that. So it's a change of the guard as far as how you manifest, what you value, and what you invest in, while all the while surrendering to some sort of fight you have with your self-worth. All right. Well, folks, that was a wacky zodiac weather. I'm grateful for you sticking around with me. You've already had a little bit of a peekaboo at our guest. Keep streaming now. We're going to go on a little bit of a break here. We're going to rerun the zodiac weather and the commercial while we switch gears here and bring on Scott Cruz. Keep streaming for Scott Cruz. This zodiac weather is for Saturday, September 23rd to Friday, September 29th, 2023. Looking at your weekend forecast, this weekend sort of opens up a little awkward. It is the beginning of the Libra transit, and you may be a little sensitive. Let's drill down. On Saturday, it's sunny and crisp. Step 0 means Pluto rules the day. That means you are defining inner boundaries with yourself and likely marching forward cautiously. The moon in Capricorn may make you a little bit self-judgmental, and Venus trines Chiron, which means you're getting ready to try something one more time. On Sunday, it's sunny and sober. Step 1 means the sun rules the day, so you are in your heart and feeling what your heart is interested in. In fact, you are finding self-love in your mirage and facing the challenge. But with Mars opposing Chiron, you may be having to face a little apprehension about trying something again. And now on to your 5-day weekday mood forecast. Looking at the week ahead, we really examine our relationship to ourself, and it all apexes on Friday with the full moon in Aries. Let's drill down. On Monday, it's cloudy and underwhelmed. Step 2 means the moon rules the day, and the moon is in Aquarius, so you are a little detached and probably searching for how you really feel about things. You're remapping your relationship to your feelings at large, and with Mercury trining Jupiter, you're also budgeting your lifestyle values. On Tuesday, it's cloudy and somewhat tense. Step 3 means Jupiter rules the day, which opens the door for a new belief about your mirage and what you believe about yourself. You're also feeling out the future. And by the end of the day, you may feel some karma with yourself as the moon moves into Pisces and conjoins Saturn. On Wednesday, it's sunny and sympathetic. Step 4 means Uranus rules the day. Expect the unexpected, some perhaps surprises with yourself. The universe is calling you to shift perspective with your heart. With the moon in Pisces, you're also feeling your karma with yourself and your karma at large. And overall, today you are committing to a new wish for the future. On Thursday, it's sunny and imaginary. Step 5 means Mercury rules the day. You are today adopting a new mindset about your mirage or a new opinion of yourself. And you are feeling destiny's call to relationships, and the moon starts to move into Aries and begin its transit to full moon status. And then on Friday, it's sunny and resigned. Step 6 means it's a Grandmaster day. Venus rules the day. The moon is full in Aries. You are accepting new mirage vows to yourself and surrendering to ego attachments.
Having trouble with indecisiveness, stress, or managing your feelings? If yes, you're looking for Serious Joy. Serious Joy is a predictive astrology service that is so amazingly accurate, you have to try it to believe it. Just enter the date, location, and time of your birth, and Sirius Joy will calculate your life story using our proprietary step astrology algorithm. It's that easy. Sirius Joy is your guardian sensei in the cloud. Every alert message is custom written for you. You are coached into your strengths and warned about weaknesses ahead of time. And say goodbye to surprise mood swings. If it sounds too good to be true, then try it for yourself. If you're not convinced Sirius Joy knows you better than you know yourself, cancel anytime. Get serious about your joy. Visit SiriousJoy.com.
Howdy, folks. We are back, and we still have a Pisces graphic up too. We're just having fun today. And this is a note to our director here. Please be welcome to a warm welcome applause here, if we can hear him, applause for psychic medium and mentor, Scott Cruz. Thank you for coming on, Scott.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
I appreciate the cameo too. That was our fault, by the way.
Sneak peek.
For the record, that was our fault. Nice. And I'm loving the purple there. I don't know. My personal belief is that Aquarius rules the crown chakra. That's my personal belief, Aquarius and Pisces. So having that violet background to me is very crown. This is, not even in the script, but is there a chakra you attune to? I know you're into the chakras.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of more thinking that as a being. And so like the chakras are different reflections of totality of my energetic being. So, but I definitely more so like solar plexus is where my intuition is most dominant. And of course my throat chakra. Because I use my voice. I'm also a singer. So those are two I identify the most. I would say all of them, right? We all identify with all of them, but my main ones would be.
You're an Aquarius of the Virgo rising, right?
Virgo rising, and moon is in Gemini.
And moon in Gemini, yeah. I think it's very aqua to not choose any favorite, but to be good for all. Very humanitarian choice.
And people ask me about music. I'm the same way. I'm like, I don't have favorites. I have lots of different references. So yeah, I kind of, it's all good.
Your own signature. So, I have to say, just for a minute, I've looked at all the videos on your website. I saw your Real Housewives of OC episode. You're the real deal, man. You are super sharp as a psychic. I can't say that I see that very often, to be honest, like as far as how incredibly sharp you are.
Thank you.
When did you become aware of your psychic abilities?
Gosh, coming out of the womb, I would say.
No kidding.
You're right. It wasn't so about like, I would say 5 or 6, that's where I started picking up on apparitions, holographic representations of, residual energies from, past, people who've lived in certain locations. And of course I was raised basically in the house with a poltergeist. So having those experiences was very unique. And so that was something my whole family in totality, we've all experienced that. So it wasn't just me. And so at that time, I realized, looking back at that, poltergeists are created because of those who've had experienced trauma and have abilities. At the time I was experiencing some abuse going on and unbeknownst to my parents. And so, and I had also abilities. So that was kind of manipulating the energy space, and also kind of targeting the person that was, that I was being, afflicted by. And so it was interesting to where my parents were experiencing these things, doors would rattle like crazy, like just insane shaking. My brother had a shelf of remote control cars, and he woke up one night, one was moving by itself and there's no batteries in it. Right.
Wow.
So there's a lot of phenomena like that on a daily basis. And, a lot of times we'd smell just a whiff of perfume, just like a cloud, just float on by. I'm like, what is this? So, the woman that died, that lived in the house, died in the house prior to, my parents buying the home. And then we found out later on too, that was built on an Indian burial ground. Talk about,
oh my God, it's literally Poltergeist.
The movie, exactly. So I really identified with that movie. And so, even now to this day, they changed the address. The address no longer exists. It used to be 610 Aldrich Road. Now it's 646. And a weird thing is I moved to a location during COVID and the address was 64610. It was basically 2 of those numbers combined. I thought that was really interesting. But so starting with that, experience with the poltergeist, I then was very attuned to my own abilities because I understand from my previous lifetimes, it was my calling to actually dive into this space and to have it fully realized at a young age. So of course I kept expanding on it. Now, when we're Italian Puerto Rican, we're from New York, Jersey, right? you don't talk about this stuff, right? It's a
Right.
machismo thing. And so, you know, my dad was very strong. My dad tried to make some logical explanations, and he got to a point he couldn't anymore. And so we just kind of like got used to it, per se, right? And so over time, people would come over, they'd experience it, and we just kind of kept it hush hush, and we just moved on. But as I grown from that experience, you know, I started predicting certain things and overseeing certain things happen, and being able to say, you know, a person, you know, 3 children died here in this home, and then friends look up later and that exactly happened in their home.
Oh,
So I was able to
wow.
receive a lot of that data, right? And I don't know how far you want to go in the story about that and my abilities, but you know, as I was, you know, getting used to all that, at some point I said, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I started becoming into the Christian religion
Oh,
to
interesting.
where then they were trying to beat that out of me.
Wow.
I was thrown into conversion therapy. So I had that wonderful experience.
How old were you in that stage?
That was teenage years, probably 13,
Okay. So
13
teenage.
to like 18. Yeah. So,
Okay.
you know, I would see in the church, even see, you know, people like snakes in people's, you know, bodies, knowing that there's a malicious intention, and then they would get kicked out of the church, you know. So I started noticing even more of that, but I was not supposed to tap into that because that was forbidden, right, within the religion. So, of course, as I got out of the religion and I, you know, started tap back into spirituality, I then started becoming an atheist. I said, I don't want to believe in any of the spiritual stuff. I'm over the burdens, you know, and I've gone through exorcism and possessions in the church. I'm like, I don't
You,
want to do any of this anymore. Yeah.
what they were trying to exercise you?
Yeah. They're trying to exercise the demon of homosexuality out of me, but also exercise the demon of psychic ability, basically, right? Trying to exercise that demon out of me.
Was your
per se.
family on board with this? Were they
We all
supportive?
were. I was even on board.
Oh, you thought you were.
I thought I was, you know, possessed. I thought it was sinful. We believed in it. And so
Gotcha.
once after conversion therapy, and I hope this is not going to become long-winded, but it will answer a lot of other questions, I would think, but about my story about being a reader.
It's actually fascinating. Go ahead.
Yeah. So once I started going to conversion therapy, and I realized that the pastor that was doing the conversion therapy had his own sinful nature, per se, we'll say, right?
Okay.
And so I just started waking up. I'm going to just, you know, make a long story short, but I didn't want anything to do with spirituality at that point. So I became atheist, and I'm like, I don't believe in God. I don't believe in stuff. I don't want anything to do with it. And I would say that was the dumbest 2 years of my life. I couldn't think outside the box.
Yeah.
And so then I became more into spirituality. I dabbled in Scientology, Buddhism. And then I just started becoming just spiritually inclined and started really studying the metaphysical spaces and tapping into, you know, learning about my mediumship abilities, expanding the mediumship abilities, also understanding how our consciousness works and how it's constructed with psychology. So I was diving in for many years, educating myself on that, to where I was able to even purge the religious aspects and, you know, also work the traumas I've experienced to overcome that. So even the learning curve of spirituality helped me to get over my own personal traumas, understanding how the mind works, how spirit works in conjunction to the mind, how to sync the two, which is definitely what my mission statement is with my work, is aligning the mind with the soul. And so then, of course, being the new medium, you know, of course, it was happening everywhere I go, and I have to stop and give a message, like you see on television. That was my life, and it was too cumbersome for me. I'm like, I can't live like this. It was great, but I understood my guides are telling me, like, this is your training, like this is your boot camp. I said, okay. So I was just doing readings on the side in private. You know, I'm also a musician and composer, so I was composing for TV, for music for TV and film, making great living. I had no intention of doing professional readings or anything of that nature. But as I was developing my abilities, and especially my insight, and learn about, you know, life trajectories, understanding how we create that, about the karmic past, I then understood how I can actually apply that to assist people, you know. And so then when I decided to kind of, you know, do more of that research, more of that application, and accepting that and embracing that, then opportunities start to fall in my lap. And I think I was doing it professionally for about 2 years before I got the housewives call.
Mhm.
And I can stop there. And if you have any questions up to that point,
Yeah, let's dive in. That was
yeah.
a huge arc. So
Right.
as a kid,
Sorry.
did you, no, actually, I love it. You actually answered the first 7 questions. So it's good. Could be your psychic mind reading the script.
Probably.
When you were a kid, and this is to help other people who have abilities and don't know what
Right.
they are. How does it present? Did you just think you had an active imagination? Because it sounds like you saw symbolism, like you saw snakes and things. So it seems like your imagination is sort of playing Pictionary with you or something.
100%, right? But I was actually seeing apparitions. Like
Really?
I would actually see, like, I would go and see like a dead body there. Or I would go into, my friend's home. I'm like, there's 3 children that were killed here, that were suffocated here. And he didn't believe me. And he looked it up, the history of the house, and he actually found that to be true. I was seeing the holographic residuals, right? So I knew the spirit wasn't there. I was seeing the residuals, and I would go out in my day and I'd see there's a little girl sitting by a tree over there. It was really interesting. The wonderful thing about that is it's like my soul already knew that this was my journey. So I was more fascinated that other people didn't see this. I'm like, you don't see these things? Like, you don't feel that? You don't see that? Like, I was more baffled that no one else saw it, more than thinking I was crazy, and so, the lot of trauma and challenges I've had, reminds me that, I almost like when children have that past life experience when they're like 5 or 6 and they know they're a certain person, their name, and they go verify and it's true. It's like, I just knew I just had that ability inside. I just automatically just believed in it. Of course, when it became cumbersome, like I rejected all of that,
Yeah.
Of course, as we know, when we reject spirituality, we create those shadow versions of ourselves, and they become very intrusive, I would say. I experienced that as well.
And sometimes the rejection is, over what's inevitable, it's like kind of, and we know it is, and that's why we're pushing it away. I mean, what we resist is a big clue of what's going on. Were your parents did they play along? Were these your imaginary friends? They thought you were possessed at some point? I mean, it seems like they were supportive, but not at the same time.
They're very supportive. Anything that I wanted to follow, they supported, and always have. I actually brought my family into the Christian church at 13 because of a youth group. So I was telling them about religion. So, and they got on board, and we all dived on in. And so when I stepped out, so did they. And when I made my realization, so did they. So, and they've been a continuous support for me to this day. So, but when I was younger, I didn't have imaginary friends. I had real friends, and, I had my dog. And so I never imagined things. I would see apparitions. I would see those holographic representations and get that information. I was still able to say, but I'm not wrapping into that world. Right. But a lot of experiences I've had, though, were these entities trying to come at me. Right. I've woken up and had it's been suffocated. I've woken up, had sheets ripped off of me. I woken up, I've seen imprints in my bed. I'm like, what is this? I've had a lot of those, and it followed me, from as I got older, until that I realized it was my own shadow version too, but also an entity, kind of like a succubus feeding off of my energy, because I wasn't directing my power really. I was power, but I wasn't doing anything with it. So of course I had an entity that was latching onto that every now and then. And so, but to me, it was school. That's schooling. I can say when I consult with my clients, I can say, yeah, I've been through possessions, I've been through exorcisms, I've been through poltergeists, I've done the supernatural phases, I've explored this, explored that, I experienced that. I understand where it stems from and how to eradicate it, and how to also work with it, and to understand where it's actually coming from. If it is actually some sort of entity or a lower level entity that's feeding on your energy, or just a shadow version of yourself that you've created. I created 2 of them in my life, and I knew it because when I've addressed it and I healed the trauma, it went away. And
I've heard that before. That's fascinating. That's just like, it's like we create like a psychic kind of ghost of ourselves. I mean, and a lot of times I think that happens, especially if there's been a lot of trauma or there's been drug abuse. I've seen that too, where people have been down sort of a dark hole. And it's almost like do you believe, I mean, now we're going off on a tangent, but do you believe that's what a ghost is? It's like the sort of like the conscious memory of someone.
Well, this is my perspective on ghosts and all that. Ghosts, if you think about, when your computer screen has a ghosting image, it's an image that was there, it burnt in, so it kind of ghosted on the screen. We call it ghosting in that sort of way.
Yeah.
I think ghosting is just residual energy of past entities, and that they're layered on top of this reality. Now, when we are connected with spirit, we are the access point for them to manifest in 3D reality. So if we are having massive unresolved trauma, then we can actually tap into a 4th dimensional malignant being that can feed off your energy, and then it can actually use you as the source to project into the outer reality. So I tell people there isn't necessarily ghosts in the physical locations, there's imprints that you can interact with. And if there's been some sort of traumatic event that has occurred in a location and you're going through fear and trauma, you could ignite that energy. You could reignite that past residual energy and have just weird things happen. Now, if you think about the intelligence of spirit, and if there's a spirit in your home, why do they just want to move something? Why do they move a jar?
Yeah, it
Wouldn't
seems
they
a
do
little
something.
seems a little boring compared to how they were alive.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You're just moving a cup. All right. You freak me out, but what's the purpose? There's no intelligence behind that. But I just think all that is a result of built up energy that's kind of manipulating the energy space, different vortices and,
So you don't really believe in hauntings per se, where someone's trapped and you got to talk them back into the light and all that sort of thing.
No, I really don't, because I think the spirit is already free, right? We're
Mhm.
bound here, right? So you want to make sure that we're not bound to our physical personas. That's what we want to make sure that we don't do. And that we understand that once we actually learn from our karmic lessons, we will not be pushed back into the reincarnation loop. That's being trapped. But we're experiencing that trappedness in the physical reality, right? I don't necessarily believe, again, there's anyone else can really verify this, but through my years of channeling, I never saw a stuck spirit.
Okay. Yeah. That
Because
makes
they're
total
not
sense.
harnessed. Yeah. Now there might be spirit that want to, have life review. And maybe I always say, what if someone's having a life review and they kind of hop back into that reality and we kind of get a glimpse of them viewing things, right? And so we can get that, imagery of that apparitional expression. There's so many possibilities that we really don't know, but I've come to different hypotheses based on my experiences that maybe so many different things. Not one time have I had a soul come to saying they're trapped.
Okay. And now you are a psychic medium. I've seen a lot
Yes.
of your videos on your website. Everyone, I recommend you go to his website. We'll give it to you at the end here. Some fascinating stuff. You can see, you get goosebumps watching him. You clearly channel the dead. You clearly channel people on the other side. And a lot of the stories that you had on your site, you were mentioning that people from the dead were, making an appearance or making a presence in the physical reality of those people. So it does seem like not ghosts, but past life entities do make little visits, right?
They do, but it's our brain is what's projecting reality. This is my belief based on what I've even studied within quantum mechanics and all that stuff and how the mind works and different theories. And so I believe that our brain is projecting this holographic realm and we're kind of decoding and encoding this reality. So when we're actually connecting with spirit from a fifth dimensional astral plane environment, I believe that when we have that connection, then we can actually manifest that apparition. We actually can manifest that experience because if we're charging and connecting with another spirit, that's a lot of power. That's a lot of energy that we can connect with. So that's why symbols can manifest, certain, a confirmation from spirit can manifest, but I never saw spirit actually in the space themselves. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of where I've beg to differ. And a lot of people in the spiritual community is that, they're actually in the home. I said, no, you're projecting the apparition because of the connection. It's perception. That's how I believe it to be.
So basically the brain is online and it's picking up a feed and it's incorporating into, our perception of reality, basically. So you're getting an active feed, but your brain, like a computer, is drawing it on the screen, so to speak.
Right. It's getting that information. So it's processing it somehow, right? Because then you're believing, I'm connecting with a loved one and it is an entity. So yeah, it can actually somehow like program that apparition. That's why some people can see spirits and some people cannot. Because if the spirit was actually there, why can certain people see them, certain people cannot, even if they're in the same location? You know what I'm saying? So if they actually are there and the apparition is present, then it wouldn't be only one type of, eyes that can encode it. It's actually the perception of the person, which again is the one that's creating the actual apparition, in my opinion, on that. Because a lot of times people, you can perceive things so many different ways, can encode reality different ways. And so I just believe our brain is just kind of the processor of how it's encoding the holographic reality.
Yeah.
If
It seems that does make sense. Totally. I've always found with my clients and whatnot, that it seems like, I mean, I've had experiences where someone believes in ghosts and they see them. Someone who doesn't believe in ghosts, they don't see them. It seems to me that personal belief tends to be a filter also to whether or not you process that stuff.
And see, that's the key. I'm glad you said that. See, that's the key for me though, too. Like if a spirit is present and the apparition is visible, it should not be based on belief. Right. So for example, we both can see that I have an iPod case here, right? You don't need to believe that I have it. It's present, right? So the apparitions, the manifestation of spirit is that personal individual creating the connection, which is still valid. It's still a valid connection. But it's not in the actual physical world. It's almost like, again, the law of attraction for me. It's a big craze going on now. It only works if you believe it to work. And there's so many conditions for it to work that I don't believe it's a law, it's a philosophy. If it was an actual law, belief would not be required. Karmic lessons would not be a condition that would affect it, right? And so there's so many different things that people think are actually built into the fabric of reality that are not, that are just based off belief because it's a personalized experience. It doesn't negate your experience. It just means it's not fundamental.
So do you believe that's the fundament in general, is belief, you know, in the sense that, so law of attraction works if you believe it, law of attraction does not work if you do not believe it? The Mary statue is crying if you believe in saints coming back through statues. The Mary will not cry if you don't believe. Right.
I believe in manifestation, and I believe the soul can alter reality. I think that's a power of spirit, not a power of a law. Right. It's like, say that you have the ability to fly. You can fly. You don't have to worry about it. But then you're trying to work with the law of gravity to fly. Like, why? You can fly. It's like saying, again, the spirit can alter and manifest reality. Why do we have to rely on a law? And that's why when people try to manifest things, then sometimes they're having a hard time manifesting. They're not realizing they're in a karmic lesson. And what they're trying to manifest is it's basically trying to negate their karmic lesson. That won't be able to be possible. That's why a lot of people get stuck. I'm doing my affirmations, I believe, and nothing's happening. I said, well, and I read their trajectory, like, you're in a karmic lesson right now that you're not learning. So you can affirm and feel all you want. You're going to block yourself from manifesting until you resolve the karmic lesson and understand what you have to process. And by the time you're done processing that karmic lesson, whatever you're trying to manifest might even change, right? So when you are finding the soul, you know, the evolution of the soul, and you are finding your soul purpose and living by that and accepting the challenges for that evolution and growth process, life manifests magically. That's where I believe, reality is that reality is very malleable. The law of attraction makes it feel like it's not malleable. You have to attract something, it's mechanical. It really isn't. So when people hear me kind of talk against the law of attraction, I'm like, I'm trying to tell you, it's more magical than that. You can actually really alter reality to manifest a different version of reality. That's more powerful. It's more on your end. And also understanding that we have spiritual support. We have spirit guides. We have those that are loved ones that have passed over, that pose as guides, that can also help us to alter reality. So when people focus on this law of attraction, they're basically saying, fuck spirit, excuse my language, screw spirit, I'm a New Yorker, screw spirit, I'm focused on this law, and it's becoming this materialism, type of thing, and less of becoming a person, more about getting things and not becoming a person. And I think that's kind of the dangers in today's new age communities when it comes to law of attraction, that it's negating a lot of that. Now, I think those who are very spiritual can see through that, but I think those who are becoming new to spirituality are getting into that. It's dangerous. And I tell people that is not spiritual. You try to manifest something is not spiritual. Evolving the soul, overcome your karmic lessons, that's spirituality. Growing and empowering the self is spiritual. And allowing yourself to consort with spirit is also a spiritual life, right? So I'm very vocal about this lately. Yeah, good. I'm sorry.
No, I've noticed. I watched your show last night. You were heated. I was watching it. I loved it. I was eating popcorn the whole time and watching you, brother. So certainly, I do believe in my own experience too, that, I have this saying here with my channels, what you be is what comes. I feel like the energy that you be, I do think that who we be is what it's all about, because who we are is what the whole story is about on this earth.
Exactly.
But I do notice that if you be a negative jerk, you attract, but you do attract the negativity. So there is an essence of attraction that's going on.
100%. Yes. Okay. And I agree when it comes to people, like, you will be attracted to certain things that resonate with your energy. That's not necessarily a law. It's something, it's like a result, right? We do attract that. But how many times have you actually, I've seen many people that are in, very negative states, but they attract a lot of positive people to help them. Right. I've seen people who are very positive and attract a lot of negative people. So, if the law was the law, it would be simplified. Like, okay, you're being good, you attract good, but it's not always the case, is what I'm trying to say. There's other parameters that go above and beyond attraction, right? There's karmic lessons, there's duality. There's people who are not, I would say, realizing the true self, and they're, coming from a psychological perspective that conflicts with the spiritual essence. That's what I'm saying about if the law would work regardless of all those parameters is what I'm saying. Because there are parameters that can not make the law not work. That's why I'm saying it's not a law.
Yeah.
It's a philosophy.
Your beef is that we're calling it a law, like gravity. And
Well,
really it's not a law. It's really just a feature.
It's a feature, but it's also the most important thing. I'm here to be an advocate for spirit. I'm a medium because yes, I love the process of seeing one connect with spirit and heal, but I'm also an advocate for, say, spirit exists. Why are we not connecting and consorting with spirit? Right. And so the law of attraction is taking that away. We're not relying upon our guides. We're not relying on the true source, especially the source flowing through us that we all have. So I believe in manifestation, but it's the modern day law of attraction craze has been just pulling away from what's really important is my main beef. And it's not a set all to me perspective law. And I'll tell you this, and this is why I feel this way or learned this, because everything I speak about, I've learned, I've been through. It's not just an opinion. So my whole life has always been very magical. Since I was a kid, thanks to my wonderful parents, when I wanted to do music, they supported me and the things I wanted to do. So I was always in my essence. And even as I got older, I carried that rhythm and everything always felt in my lap. I thought about something, it'd show up, but I always felt guided. And so then when I started, in my later 20s, I started realizing, I heard about the law of attraction and I'm like, oh, so that's what's happening. So I dived in. I said, okay, I'm going to try to manifest and attract things. My life took a complete detour. Like, what's going on here? I said, believe in what I'm affirming, I'm doing. And then it completely turned my life upside down in the sense of I stopped focusing on my evolution. I focused on manifesting things. And if I was doing the right or wrong things to manifest it, right? As far as the conditional aspects. So if you want to say attract, if you want to believe, if those who believe in the law of attraction still attract the evolution of your soul and understand what your soul is desiring, then you can experience that law of attraction craze because your soul will just be manifesting reality anyways. And I know a lot of times people say it's like a fine line, and it is, but I want people to focus on what's more important, and that is the evolution of the soul. That's how things really manifest. So what you said is key. You get who you are, right? And you mingle with what you are putting out in a sense, and the essence of who you are, and that's true. But I studied the mechanics for so long, and when I see something that's false, it's hard for me not to say anything right about it after studying the mechanics and understanding and my personal experiences. But if someone believes in it and they're still working with the soul, that's fine. I mean, everyone is subjected to their own thing. There's a lot of positives about it too. I think that people who are not spiritual, I think the law of attraction has helped people to be more self-reflective. Even though it's gotten to a point people are becoming very judged because they're not thinking right, or and another thing is people should be experiencing negative thoughts and diving in and not be afraid of thinking negative thoughts. They can convert it and understand the power. It takes that away from certain people, but there's a lot of positives in it that people are becoming more aware and more self-reflective. So that's a very positive thing that's come out of that. So hopefully that most people can evolve from that.
I also am a Buddhist. I went down the path of Buddhism. Nichiren Daishonin was the sect I discovered in San Francisco in my 20s. And I asked our sensei, why, because they would encourage us to chant for things like cars and houses and material stuff. And I thought that was kind of shallow. I was like, why would you do that? And my teacher said, oh, don't worry. After they start receiving what they want something deeper. It's an inevitability that the shallowness inevitably turns into a mundane and unhappiness. We see that already with, I mean, I've read for a lot of wealthy people and they just are not happy. Like, so money, clearly material stuff does not bring happiness. So eventually it seems to me that, being in it for the material will eventually hit a brick wall. You'll eventually realize that there's more to life. So how would you differentiate then the law of attraction? And I would say, yes, we'll say the energy of attraction versus manifestation. What are the keys to manifesting then, if you want to manifest your happiness per se?
Now I want to start kind of to dovetail what you were just saying too.
Sure.
Is that the material things are results. That's how I want to start your question, saying, having the good relationship is a result. And having the home and having the money are all results. So everyone's trying to manifest results without filling in the gaps. And filling in the gaps is to manifest it is, and I'll give an example. If you want to be financially abundant and wealthy, you need to value yourself. You need to learn
Yeah.
value. If you have an issue with money, you need to learn how to value yourself, value what you do, and then have to understand how to put out value. So then what manifests? Abundance, financial abundance. I don't care for people saying abundance generally, because we already have abundance of thought, abundance of air, abundance of trees.
Yeah.
We already have abundance. We got to specify financial abundance. And the way to obtain that is to understand your worth and your value, and how valuable is your work. And I had a major issue with that for myself, because I definitely was just putting all my value, giving it away to people, giving people all my time. And I'm like, what's going on here? And I didn't realize I need to put a value on my work, and so I definitely had to learn that. And then things started changing.
Yes.
Same thing with the relationship. Many people want relationships. They're saying, I just want the relationship. I said, well, the relationship is a result of understanding self-love and compatibility, and expressing and receiving love. A lot of my clients have a hard time receiving love.
Yes. Yeah, mine too.
And so I would say, look at whatever your desire is to manifest, and understand that is a result of your growth. Because when you're growing, you would say things manifest that you didn't even think about. And like I said previously, I never imagined me doing, readings. I've been doing it now for 12 years professionally. I've never imagined doing this. And I was pushed into it, not by law of attraction, but my guide, spirit was put, says, you have to do this. This is a calling. I'm like, I didn't want to. Right.
I didn't
so
either.
That's why. Yeah. Right. But that's the wonderful thing about it, because we do it from a place of authenticity. I'm not trying to appease anybody. If I'm called to do this, I got to do what's right. Right. And so I was listening to you. You're so thorough. I love your approach. Kind of reminded me of me a little bit, how thorough you were.
Yeah. Likewise, brother.
And so very passionate in knowledge. And I can tell you are, in love with what you're speaking. And so that's because you know that you don't have to do this. It called you. And so that gives you a little bit of that humbleness, but also the authenticity. And I loved a lot of your approaches too when I was listening.
Oh, thank you, sir.
So that's how you manifest. I tell people, you engage. If you want a relationship, engage with yourself more. Right. Find the value. What can you bring to the table? I have so many people that come to me, especially in my lives. When's my next relationship? I'm lonely. Is there a curse on me? I'm like, you're not engaging with yourself. There's no prediction here. I said, we gotta love yourself. What do you find? What is valuable to you that you can offer somebody else and share with somebody? And then they're stumped, right? That's the key to manifestation. And I want people to understand the house, the car, the relationship, the money are results. They're not goals. They're results. The goal is to become more of you, right? The soul expression.
Yeah. I mean, if I may modify on the fly, and just came up with this as you were talking, it's not really attraction, it's reflection, isn't it? It's like,
mirroring.
It's a law of reflection, really. It's that reality is a reflection. I do believe that we come down because we can't see ourselves in heaven. We can't experience the material. And so, my belief about why God created the universe is because God wanted to know herself, so it's like, we come down, I think, to see who we really are and to experience who we really are in a mirror perspective.
Exactly.
So that's where I feel I agree with you. It's like, if you don't value yourself, you won't attract value, or you won't reflect value in your life. Let's use
you can say attract. You can say, look, I still believe in attraction. I just don't think it's a law in a sense of how people are pushing in the New Age communities. But we still, I'm attracted to certain things, and I attract certain people. That still exists. There's still that kind of, coming together of energy that still exists. But I'm saying, when it comes to manifestation, the two are different. The two are completely different. You're trying to manifest something. That's not law of attraction. That's you altering reality and altering and expanding the soul. That creates a different reality. We still attract things. I'm attracted to certain types of music. That's all, that's all true. I'm not trying to dismiss all of that, but I'm also just trying to give a different perspective of today's New Age communities. I feel like it's been more of a trap for a lot of people, because I get a lot of those people very frustrated and almost like beating themselves up. I'm not positive enough. And it's gotten so judgmental and so self-condemning that it kind of reminds you of, certain religions that I partook in, that was that self-condemning type of energy. And I want to save people from that, through my own experiences, and give them almost like the reprieve. That's like, no, it's okay. You embrace the challenge, right? Yeah. Embrace the challenge, embrace the hardship, feel the emotions, feel them, address them. Because when you feel the emotion, you exhaust that, and they say, I just want this, bam. Then you realize, oh, that's who I am.
Yeah. And I think it is interactive with reality to learn who we are. And really, and when you say manifestation, we're really talking about the power of God creation, right? That we're creating We're creating with the energy in the universe, and that we are
Yes.
co-creators of the universe, and it is a
Yes.
co-creation. It's not singular, which is another place. Although I look at the people who, it's funny because in our industry, I was here from the beginning, as far as the celestial prophecy and The Secret and all those little benchmarks. And here we were different, and we're not the same as organized religion. And yet we've fallen in the same traps. We're condemning each other.
That's
we're
right.
judging each other.
That's right.
I'm all saying, the same shift that the Christians did back at Constantine. That's funny.
Exactly right. Oh, it's a low vibration. And I'm like, guys, it's low vibration means it's a slow it's a slow rhythm. And high frequency is a fast rhythm. Do you know that you be anger and be a high frequency in anger? You can be a high frequency in excitement too. And when we go into meditation, we're slowing our brainwaves down in meditation. So in a sense, we're lowering frequency in meditation. So it's not a completely accurate representation. I know it's become more like metaphoric, raising frequency, but they're now trying to use science to prove that to be such, and it's not actually accurate. I'm okay with using the metaphor. Yeah, it's a raise of vibration. That's subjective too, right?
Right.
So I just think I'm very much about the truth, and like if I have something I believe in, I will push that aside if it's not true. I'm all about that evolution of truth. So I just see a lot of people, especially a lot of clients that come, have had a lot of issues and challenges with that type of ideologies. And it's really been affecting them greatly. Yeah. And so that's the main reason why I've also been on the platform. I didn't want to speak out about any of it until I started really interacting with people who've been having so much of those issues coming forth with that. And look, it might be deliberate of whoever's pushing that out to. I say it's kind of like the next get rich quick scheme is now The Secret and the law of attraction stuff. I would say there's truth in it, kind of with some dishonesties in it. And I just think that a lot of people just need to have a different point of view on it, so they can have a reprieve, as I said before, and not be so like judging themselves so much and others. And I just find that to be a lot of the results lately.
Yeah, certainly. Although they are in the path to metaphysics, which is at least in the right direction.
Right. In the right direction.
There's a little bit of progress. Yeah.
Right.
It's not pure material. Yeah.
Right. I'm hoping it leads them there. And I at least want to be that mouthpiece. If I didn't have so much people coming with those issues, I would not be saying anything about it.
Right. Let's talk about dead people. So when did you first realize you were a medium, that you were talking to people in the afterlife? Obviously you had apparitions, but at what point was there contact to the other side that was defining and convincing for you?
Right. God. I mean, I was doing it in church, but it was prophetic. It wasn't that. So it's the same thing, but it's a prophetic word. It wasn't until like after like 18, I would like start saying like, oh, I think that someone's present. And then it wasn't until like, my 20s. Then I shut it down for, like I told you, I became like atheist. I don't want anything to do with spirituality because of my experiences and the negative aspects. Mm-hmm. So that was like my, maybe like early 20s. I started really kind of like sitting with people and working with that whole, I have this message, your bad past, this, and give those informations, their name, did they pass to this? I started getting information. And then it would just kind of be in the back of my mind. I'm like, yeah, I can do this. But I was so focused on music. I'm like, whatever. It got me. It was a slow momentum getting back into it. Because like I told you, for a while, I didn't want anyone to know about it. I didn't even want it public.
Right.
Because I don't want to be a circus freak, right? And I have to address people who are skeptics. I don't want that in my life. Like I didn't want that. And so, then the more I was just accepting it, because even when I shut it down, I was having massive amounts of anxiety. I had agoraphobia because I didn't want anything to do with it. So I was basically killing that part of myself. And that was not a pleasant experience. I didn't want to leave my house. I'm very domesticated to begin with, but like I was afraid to go to like movie theaters and places with crowds because all that energy. It had so much anxiety. And so for like 2 years, I had agoraphobia. I was afraid of going places. I convinced myself I had IBS and that's why I couldn't go out. But then when I realized, the spirit was coming at me harder and I accepted it, then that went away. It completely went away. And then I said, I'm going to embrace it. And then, I was doing readings on the side privately, parties here and there, and then it wasn't until I think until my early 30s. I'm 41 now. My early 30s, I said, I'm going to go on Facebook and create a page for it. And I was just giving free readings because I wanted to test my abilities, and people were blown away. I said, in exchange for a free session, write a review, and then a couple years after that, read Tamara Judge, and that's what landed me on the Housewives. Well, I mean, I read her first. I was reading her for a while because she's going through a custody battle, and so she was freaked out about about lots of stuff.
That was
And
pretty
I don't
profound
even,
moment, I have to say, just to give you some props. Like for those who haven't seen the episode, he basically, they're asking about someone who had cancer and you right away
yeah.
felt suspect about it. Like something felt off. And then for you to have the courage on camera,
Oh, don't even get me started.
dude, my God, I
The-
was really proud of you. It's like, I mean, I know one of the hardest things is, letting someone down with the truth and sticking to it. And this whole, like, that you're projecting or that, whatever, but you basically said, I don't really feel what did you feel? Did you feel that he was being deceitful? Did you feel that there was you just scanned his body? There was no cancer. What did you
yeah.
pick
Well,
up on?
first, I'll tell people how I can pick up someone I don't meet. When someone mentions a name of someone, they in their mind have the energy of the person. So then I can use that
Yes.
energy stream to latch on to the being.
I can feel that too through
So
clients. Yeah.
right, exactly. And so I'm just saying for people who may watch and they don't like, how do you know if they met him?
Oh,
And
no.
so
Yeah, for sure.
so I didn't necessarily want to go on the show. I'm like, that's not my thing. I don't watch those shows. It's not I'm not a sensationalist. And she's like, oh, come on, it'll be fun, read the girls. And she didn't tell me what, we didn't know anything. And so I'm like, all right. I was just like, this, do something out of your box, and I feel like, now maybe I should make it public. Maybe I feel I should now after I'd repressed it so long. So on the show, started reading the girls. I happened to one of the woman's grandmother and the connection to the daughter. They cut it massively down.
Yeah.
I read
I
another
come from
woman.
reality TV.
Yeah. Okay. So, and then I read another woman told about a child. It was great interactions. And then they asked about this guy, Vicky, and the guy who has cancer. Now, mind you, I don't think it's ethical to bring up someone who's not there, any type of health information. I don't think it's ethical.
Right.
So my person would not have done something like that. But this, I'm telling you, was spirit ordained
I believe it.
because I was in a situation, I was like, oh God. And they even showed me, like, I had to sit back and go into a slight meditative state.
You
And
did take a step and close your eyes. And I was like, where's
yeah,
he going?
because I have to, that's a serious claim.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm,
Yeah.
the cameras are rolling, but I'm not concerned about the characters. I'm not really, not that I don't care about my persona. I'm not trying to create a persona, right? I'm being real. And so as I tapped in, I had lost a best friend of brain cancer a year prior to that. Who's
Wow.
like a brother to me. My cousin was going through ovarian cancer. My sister had breast cancer, was going through breast cancer. And my uncle also was dealing with cancer. So there's a lot of cancer experiences around me. So I thought the
What it
timing was
feels like. You know what
well,
it feels like. Yeah.
right. So, but when I tapped in and I just saw, like, those circles with the line through it, like no, I'm like deception, and I kind of got a little angry. I'm thinking to
Mhm.
myself, this is television, but this is effed up. And I
Yeah.
said, I don't see it. I don't
Yeah.
see it. And what they didn't air is I said, look, and they're like, what? They were shocked, actually.
Yeah.
And they were shocked that I had the balls to say that. And so
Yeah.
I trust my intuition. Up to that point, I know when I see something, I know it's spirit,
Yeah.
and I trust spirit. So I said to them, I said, look, I saw maybe something on the nose, cancer on the nose, something of that nature, but it was nothing. That's all I'm seeing. I said, and and I went from there. I said, it's a sensitive topic, but look, I'm not a guru, but this is my read on it. And I was invested because I'm like, I've dealt with people, or I was people in my lives who were dealing with cancer. And for someone to exploit that was just not cool to me.
Yeah.
And so then afterward, I had a lot of anxiety afterwards. Like, I know I was right. I'm like, but what if I'm not? Then
Oh,
your
yeah.
brain kicks in, the ego.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I just put myself on national television.
Yeah.
So I had all that, and everyone's like, Scott, you're good, you're good, you're good. And of course, during the filming, it came out that the City Pope documents were forged.
Yeah.
And I didn't get vindicated, I think, until years after the fact, that they said something that Brooks did have cancer on his nose prior. So I'm like, I was wondered about that. So it came out that was actually true, that he had like some sort of thing on the nose or something like that prior to all that. So I was like, okay, that was nice to have a little bit of validation, because I was wondered about that.
Yeah.
But I feel like certain things, because I always say I'm dedicated to spirit. That is my dedication, is to spirit and the authenticity, and whatever has to happen. And afterwards, I'm like, look, these people get paid for this. They get paid $600,000, $700,000 a season. They're putting that stuff on TV. Then fair game. Then that's how it came to the conclusion at that point. you know, especially if you're making something up. So I allowed myself to not feel so guilty about, you know, doing the, you know, the health thing on TV, because that's something I would think is unethical if that person's not there.
Yeah,
You know,
that's a real toughie, man. I don't think there's
it's a tough one.
it's very tough. But at the same thing, I think it all sort of fate took over there. You seem to just like follow the
Yes.
energy. And
Yes.
I saw the Aquarius step up for injustice, which I see in all Aquariuses. Like, this is unjust. Aquarius cannot have,
That's right.
they cannot resist picketing something that's unjust. Like,
That's so true.
your own nature took over there. And then the Virgo was pointing out what was wrong. So I saw,
Exactly.
and I was like, yeah, but it's probably all destined to be. I mean, but I look at it also too as like, lessons learned everywhere. Lessons learned, you know, about as far as people lying, how people can cheat you, but also that this psychic stuff is real. Like even Bravo being forced to take psychic ability, credible. So I thought it was a win-win situation. It was.
It is, but then you have people saying, "Oh, I was informed." I'm like, if I was informed, would I put my reputation on the line of something very, very bogus like that? Like if somebody even had, if someone told me, "Oh, I speculate this," I'm going on, I'm making an assessment, and I'm saying it's not there. That's a big thing. That's a big deal to do that, to be influenced by something that was not even proven.
Right.
No one knew. No one speculated at that time. It wasn't even on the storyline. So
I can see where you take that personally, but you got reality TV is known to be full of fakes anyway. So I think you might have that might be a little bit of a symptom of just people skeptical of reality TV, period.
It was like two people like in a blog. I think, you know, the interesting thing was I think Spirit put that on my path to launch my career, because, you know, I was doing it on the side and I was doing it, you know, but, you know, after that show, I was booked out for many years.
Yeah. For you to come out.
I could not. Yeah. I was booked a year in advance. So I'm not saying, okay, this is too much. I need to start weeding things out, and I need to be month to month now. So I've gotten down after many years. So we're on month to month basis. So I'm not suffocating my Aquarius nature. Right.
Yeah. No, it's good. And it got you out. For sure.
It helped build that momentum, which like that was definitely divinely inspired. Again, you can't attract and like think about that stuff. Spirit knows your plan, right? Yeah. If I was trying to manifest something else, that would have never happened, because Spirit's like, no, but this is your agenda. This is where you're going. And so that's very key. And it's so magical when you allow kind of Spirit to drive with you. Like you said, co-creating with Spirit. And we can't negate our own spiritual power. We forget we are source. We have source running through us. We have an astral body right now, and we're in a physical body. That's big. That's powerful. No wonder why the malignant beings want our energy so badly. We are so powerful that, you know, and I love that about law of attraction. It does bring that we are powerful. I love that essence of it. So there's a lot of truth in it, but there's a lot of lies that can cause some challenges. And, you know, I just want to make sure people are aware of that. But
having teched into heaven as much as you do, like, what can you share about afterlife from what you can tell from your perspective?
Well, again, these are all theories. I always say this: we all have different experiences of afterlife and so forth.
Absolutely, it's all from your experience of what you've seen,
but also from the Spirit side channels. So
that's what I mean too. I'm sorry, yeah.
So from my experience, very rarely have I seen Spirit move on. So I understand the time is a different perception and physical than Spirit. So maybe, you know, our time of the physical life is a blink of an eye to Spirit. So by the time we're done with their life, they blinked and they have moved on, or we reunited in our death experience. I've seen Spirit, you know, wait, you know, and here's the thing I'm questioning too. I've been questioning, because I know we have different specs. I'm like, is the Spirit version of the physical persona the away message while the soul is experiencing something else? Because we are multidimensional. So like, how is it possible? What if my soul is somewhere else? How could someone channel the Spirit? I said, maybe we are multidimensional that way, that we form a Spirit version of our physical body that becomes interactable. And it's still an essence that we've left behind. So I'm starting to believe that too. And, you know, a lot of people, when they talk about their afterlife experiences, a lot are still exploring. They're kind of in this very malleable version of existence, to where they can actually just say, I want to be on a beach, and they're there. I want to be here, and they're there. Just like no progression, but just kind of experiencing whatever they want to experience. And also constantly reviewing life. And so, and I think that, you know, at some point, a lot of Spirit, he too will be reincarnated, you know, probably at the end of this lifetime. I don't know how the time cycle is in Spirit, but I do know, and this has been more inspired to me through the years about reincarnation. I used to think that we get to choose that all the time. Those of us who evolve, yes. Those who have not fully evolved, they get pushed back in without even having a choice, right? So maybe for those who've actually gone and broke a lot of natural law, murder, stuff of that nature, they'll get pushed right back into the reincarnation loop. And, and this is another thing I tell people about, the good and evil of the planet. I said, you don't understand people's karmic lessons. You don't understand. What if, I use a Hitler comparison, knowing the destruction and disaster Hitler's created. What if you see a life, you're like, why is this poor person going through the challenges? What if you understood that was the soul of Hitler experiencing his karma? You think differently about that struggle of that person. So we have to take into account and consideration when we pass on, we want to evolve from what we didn't evolve from, or change the things that we know that we did that was against our soul purpose. And so we will incarnate to experience the equivalent to what we've inflicted. And so
which is karma, basically. Which is commonly known as karma, right?
Yes, it is karma. And I always say karma is also memory. So we also carry karma, which is like memory, and that karma gets stored in our DNA. It's like,
I agree.
It's magnificent. I mean, DNA alone is amazing. And so we have different options. And so I think a lot of times before people decide to reincarnate or get forced to, they stay in the astral plane for some time, in fourth 5D, of dimensionality. And they're accessible. But again, our years of life could be a blink of an eye to spirit, and we all kind of align and move forward in a very in sync, type of format. So, so different experiences. So, I never really heard anybody talk about, like, say, heaven, God in that sense, but saying that they're free, there's no limitation, there's no bondage. I got a lot of those messages that they're, healed in a sense, that they're a better person. And what I see commonly, Christopher, is that is that when people, maybe you have someone who's not a great dad, they pass on, they now want to be in their child's life, being a support for them to make up for not being there. I see that a lot. And I tell people in mediumship sessions, I'm like, you'd be surprised, but your mom, who was, maybe your enemy, is actually trying to come through to assist with you because of what they deprived you of. I see a lot of that, which is wonderful. And something they'll do it, even though they'll do it where it's unknown. I love that too. It's like spirit's like, I don't need credit, but I have to be there for my loved one because I deprived them of that love. So I'm going to set them up. They will help manifest a loving relationship that they were deprived of. So understand, spirit loves to make up for whatever they deprived someone of, from the spiritual perspective too.
Yeah, it seems like we shed our ego, or we shed our attitude, or we shed sort of like blindedness that we have. Because I've had a couple experiences with psychic mediums where I've been on the receiving end of a reading, and it's like the character that crossed over suddenly had a conscience. Like,
right.
The person I was fighting with my whole life. It seems like it's like the wool's taken off their eyes, and they and then it seems also like a paradigm of love. It seems like there's tremendous love, almost an ecstasy of love and happiness and positivity, even from people who were negative their whole freaking life. Now they're dead and they're positive and they're supportive. And it seems like they have the capacity to interfere, like as far as songs, like it seems like there's a way to sort of get message to us. A lot of times when we hear a song or whatever, we dismiss it as imagination, but it's actually them coming through.
I've had amazing specific after session validations. I've had a one in particular, right? This woman was trying to, she wasn't trying to move, but I remember her mom saying, you need to move. You have to move. And she's saying, and there's something with the sunflower reference, like you have to follow sunflowers, she kept saying, and you'll find the right house. About a month later, Scott, I moved. And right after our session, I looked across my neighbor. He was cutting down all the sunflowers. Like, what the hell? And so when she got a realtor and found a new place, there was a sunflower logo on the realtor's, thing. And she's like, I'm in the house that I love. And she's like, I realized when I saw the neighbor cutting down the sunflowers, I realized I have to leave. My mom was correct. And then she led me to the realtor with the sunflower logo, and so that's a wonderful after session validation where spirit's like, I'm going to help you. Look, here's the signs. That's not law of attraction. That's spirit manifesting with you. That's amazing. That's magical. Like I'm saying, we should dismiss that amazing co-creating experience. And so, yeah, and I see, spirit will like lay out certain things to look out for, to let them know they're helping them on their path. It's wonderful. It's really wonderful to see that. And it's also reassuring for me too, because like, a lot of times, as as doing what you do as well, you get so numb to like being the best version it could be in the work. You're like, wait a minute, I'm also spirit too. And I also have spiritual support,
Oh,
so
yeah.
we forget to do for ourselves.
I
So
do.
it's also nice to have that reminder for myself as well in the sessions. Like, wow, spirit is amazing. It can do wonderful things with us, of course, and so are we.
There's
And so
also
I think
someone,
that's the, yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
there's selfishness too that seems to continue. Like, if your mom wanted you to have more kids, like she goes to heaven and she's still preaching for you to have more kids,
Well, I mean, they do. Let me be clear about this. They do that to show their personality. Like, so sometimes if the mom will come through, say it was something like that. It's like, she really wants you to get married, have kids. She really doesn't, but she's playing the role of how she was in physical to say, yeah, that's my mom. Right.
Oh,
And I'll tell
okay.
her, so your mom's saying this, but she's okay if you don't too, but she really would love that for you. Right. Because what they want is for their loved one to have that experience. Right.
Right.
So every guys, but when you get back in your spiritual essence, you realize it's all good. They are blessed. They have everything they need regardless, right? So I realize spirit really doesn't really care about that, but they come through with that quirky personality to connect in that level that they used to connect on. Because they want the best for them, clearly, too. And so if they find that they'll find happiness through those outlets, then yes, they would want that for them to grow.
Do you connect with higher beings like angels or ascended
Mhm.
masters? Yeah.
I'm just now studying the occult, actually. I'm learning more about the archetypes and the Goetia. I'm just studying that. I'm just interested. It exists. I want to know more about it. I kind of stood away from that. And understand even the angelic realm and beings and understand the history. So I'm diving deep. So I have a long way to go, right? And also have a long way to go when it comes to understanding, the different archetypes and all that great stuff. But I want to know more about that. So, when I have consorted with angels in the past and consorted with my guides and other spiritual beings as well, but now I'm becoming more deliberate on that instead of being so general and being more deliberate and specific now about it. And so, yeah, and I'm finding that, that this might be very unpopular in the spiritual communities, but I'm finding that there are also, I think when people say demon, they think of it being evil and angels as being good. And I think that we have to kind of expand out of the good evil thing, because in spirit, everybody has power. So there's no need to fight. So they're just reflections. I would say we have divine feminine, divine masculine. I tend to think, and you may not agree, but this is my opinion, what I'm deciphering currently, that what we call demons or the divine feminine. It's all about growth. It's all about evolution. It's all about that. And the divine, the angel realms are more the divine masculine, support, protection, right? Because angels are all about protection. Archangel Michael, right? All about protection. That's a very divine masculine. And the demonic energy, it's all about soul evolution. And I've been learning more about that. It's really flipped my mind. It's the script in my mind. So I'm not saying this is in stone. I'm saying this is what I'm discovering at the moment. And it's changing my perspective on things. And I started consorting and tried to tap into lower level entities on the Goetia and understanding, the essence of that and having very interesting experiences and getting a lot of clarity, even with my own situations as well. So I'm taking my baby steps, and sometimes you got to go into the dark to find light. And I'm doing so because if that's how existence is, I want to learn about it and experience it. And I understand, we all should understand the power of our own souls, that no other spirit can affect our soul because we are the ones running with the source energy through us in the physical body form. So we have so much power. We just understand how we utilize our own power to experiment. Yeah, there's so many different levels of these archetypal energies. I'm starting to wonder if what we call demons and angels are just different archetypes of consciousness and streams of consciousness that we can tap into, not actually entities, but just different streams of consciousness that have power within them.
Right.
So
And play
don't take
certain
me
roles, because without conflict,
right.
there is not growth. So, I mean, I haven't gotten into the demon realm is a real questionable one. I mean, I focus mostly on the love and the light, obviously, just because that feels a
Yep.
lot better.
Sure.
Like,
Of course. Yeah.
but I've also, from people I've studied like yourself, it sounds like from what I've heard, the angels and the demons conspire. Like it's sort of like basically a demon gives the ass whooping,
Yeah.
an angel
Of
gives the
course.
medicine.
Well, actually, angels could be tricky too. If you consort with an angel, they can actually take away from you what they've given you too. So
Right.
you have to understand, the angelic realm is not all about just being like accepting of everything. The angel realm you're talking with powerful energies.
Right.
So if you screw around with either one, you're gonna have effects of both. And so
Mm.
that's a very interesting thing of that. And so, and again, this is what I'm discovering. I'm not saying this is true. So everyone listening, understand this is what I'm discovering as I'm studying this
Your
realm.
current research. Yeah.
Right. Because I don't want to say this is it, but I'm starting to realize not all demons have evil energies and not all angels have good energy. And again, that's very subjective. I don't like to use the word positive or negative only because those are components of reality. Positive is a very inclusive energy.
Right.
It's continuing, and negative energy is just disconnecting and separating, right? So I always say to my clients that sometimes you have to disconnect from something that's bad for you, but that's a positive result for you. The energy of disconnecting from something is negative, but you're doing something to benefit yourself. So we're always in the positive, negative components. But good or evil is something that I think that people misinterpret sometimes. Because if there's a demon that's trying to help your soul grow, and the only way you're going to learn to grow is through a challenging experience, well, that actually is a loving experience and something that that your soul needs. So I ask people to be more open about that because I'm being more open too, and I'm starting to see a lot of my past beliefs shatter and crumble. It's uncomfortable, but I said, but look, I'm studying. I want to evolve more, and the things that I believed for so long are starting to take a detour.
Well, if it all came from God and came from unconditional love, I mean, God created the evil, God created the parasite that eats the bacteria that breaks down the body. Like it seems to be part of the orchestra of how the universe works. And
exactly.
of course, religion exploited this. And, I think when it comes to people want to control people on earth, they've always been divisive and being divisive as a means of control. But if you're, from what it seems like ascension. I want to know about ascension, but it seems like ascension or rising to a higher vibration comes through neutrality, which is where you are accepting both the good and the dark, the light.
I love you. Yes. I love you for saying that. You are so on the money. I say objectivity, right?
Yeah.
And 5D ascension, and I get yelled at for this. I say, when you send to 5D, you realize there's no victims. And this is coming from someone I've been victimized in my life. Okay. Right. I've gone through traumas like I mentioned.
Right.
But what I'm saying is you understand the karmic patterns that people have. You understand the reasons why you get to understand there's a bigger picture to people's sufferings. And I realize even with I'm like, I can see exactly why I've chosen my sufferings because who I wanted to become. Like it makes perfect sense. I choose those things spiritually. Yeah. And when you're an indestructible soul, you will play around and rough yourself up a bit if you're going to expand your soul for eternity. Yeah. So a lot of people are not ready for that type of perspective, but that's
because they're responsible for their unhappiness, and no one wants to be responsible for their unhappiness. I always say it's like we go to heaven, we're like intoxicated with pure love, and we're looking down to earth like an amusement park. And we're like, oh, let's go on that house of horrors. Let's go there. It's like an amusement park. Then we get here, we're like, what the F? Like, what was I thinking?
Right. Exactly. But when you grow the soul, the thing is we want to become more like source. But the fact is we're helping God, our creator, understand itself. Because I would say the God energy is like a void energy. Right. Yes. But we're helping the God energy know itself. So we're reflections of source. And so we have to express ourselves. That when you don't express yourself, that is out of order to your soul evolution and out of order to existence in general. It's all about growth. You can't help to grow. You can't stop aging process. Even in the physical world, we age whether we like it or not. You can't stop the growth process. So even naturally with the soul, when we in the physical realm restrict the soul growth, that's where all the bad stuff manifests.
Yeah.
Because then it's like the soul's like, well, I'm going to make you learn. I'm going to wake you up. You're suffocating me. Okay, well, take this accident, take this illness, take this. Are you getting it yet? And I see that happen a lot, you know? And so, and I'm going to address this too, because maybe people are listening to this are thinking about maybe victim blaming. It's not victim blaming. I would say, would you rather think that you're a victim to circumstance or the fact that you were the master of your destiny? Which would you want to believe? Would you want to believe that, yes, somewhere along the line, I developed this health issue because I wasn't conscious of my health. Yeah, maybe I was consuming aspartame and all these diet drinks, and I developed brain cancer, and I lived a healthy life, but maybe it was all that aspartame that gave me the brain cancer, right? So we have to look and at least give ourselves the opportunity to say, where have I could have done created this, or where have I the effect caused this effect, right? And then if you can't find the physical cause, look spiritually. And I'm telling you, when you look spiritually, it all comes to you. You realize I'm not powerless. So it's not that we're teaching about victim blaming, we're teaching about empowerment. And there has to be a reason for things. If things just happen in this world because of just shitty things happen, that's kind of not very intelligent. The universe is very, very, very intelligent. Everything is on a rhythm. Everything works together in harmony. It's in a rotation. We look at our planets. It's another thing I want to learn more about astrology. You're inspiring me with astrology to dive deep into that as well. It's all connected. Everything is all aligned. But to say, oh, but this shitty things has happened just because, that doesn't go in the rhythm of nature and doesn't go in the rhythm of the intelligence of the universe or spirit. Just because, So no, it's not victim blame. You're speaking to someone who is very much victimized a large portion of my life. And I found the power through it and saying, I understand spiritually why I needed those things. And, and I'm not going to be long-winded about this, but I do want to mention that there's a text in the Bible that says, God will not give you anything that you cannot bear. Right. When I look back to the trauma that I experienced, the actual trauma themselves, you're equipped for it. It's like, yeah, it wasn't until after the fact that when you start thinking about what happened and you process it, that's where the heaviness comes in. That's where the massive, crap and the hurt comes in, is after the trauma. So I realized doing the circumstance, like whatever, it's like you're in this mode of like, I can deal with this, but it's the after the trauma where that becomes very challenging and all that. So that to me says that it's not about the pain, it's about the processing, and the pain is a result of not processing.
Yeah. And it's about what you do from the pain with the pain, not that the pain happened. I see victimization as sort of a stage of awareness, uncovering. But you do come to a point where you're going to have to choose whether you're that you have the power over your own life or you don't. Right. And it's like, if you're going to choose you have the power over your own life, then you're going to have to accept that you had something to do with the bad things that happened in your life. Right. Or you're not going to have, it comes down to either you're in power or you're not. I know people feel like they're not in power, but I think it's because we don't necessarily know where the switch is, or we don't really necessarily recognize where we made the wrong turn at Albuquerque, as I like to say, as a Bugs Bunny reference. It's like, and so we kind of project, but very interesting stuff. I could talk to you forever, man. I want to get one more question out to you before we close. And that is, you've had a lot of great message for people today, seeing what you see and the visibility that you have, and given the circumstances of our current environment that we have going on with medical, financial, governmental, all this stuff. What do you feel is the most important message you have for people today on how to face our life today? And I know I'm throwing I'm throwing a hook at you, but.
Oh, no. It's just, there's so much to say, right? Because,
boil it down to 3 sentences. No, I'm kidding.
First, I'll just let it roll. First thing is stay out of politics. Be objective with politics. Don't pick a side, please, because there's so much valuable information on both parties. Remain neutral with politics. Yeah. Like you mentioned before, they're using everything to divide, but the division is what causes unity. Right. So there's also some benefits to that chaos. COVID was a wonderful experience that woke a lot of people up to say, I'm sick of this job anyways. I'm going to go follow my passion, or I'm sick of it. I'm moving. So it woke a lot of people up to make great change, and it isolated people. I think that was necessary spiritually, COVID, for people to isolate and rethink things. They got rid of relationships that didn't work. They made great changes. So COVID was a blessing in disguise, in my opinion. But a lot of these evils that are going on, or these manipulations, especially those who are in the cult that are, kind of pulling the strings of this world, do not focus on that. Yeah. Be aware of it, but what I want you to focus on is how you're going to maneuver around it, how you're going to align with the truth, but for fundamental truth, but also evolve yourself through the process of these challenges in our world. And if you want to be a beacon of a voice to help to inspire change, then do it. Don't be on Twitter or X, whatever they call it now, and just go and start wars. Go and do something productive to bring some sort of voice to the planet in a productive fashion. A lot of people have a lot to say, but they don't know how to say it or where to say it. And I think that's, find an outlet, an avenue that can work for people to do so. And also be very objective and don't be easily influenced. I would say we all have built-in discernment. Please use it.
Right.
You know when something smells like shit. Sorry for my tone, but I'm human, right? You know when something
Yeah.
smells like crap. You know if it's false or not. The problem is people are so in fear about what's going on, what's being suggested to them, that they're not able to use their discernment. So please, guys, practice your discernment. And at the end of the day, understand there's a reason why we're on this timeline. There's a reason why
Right.
we've chosen to be in this awakening. I say we're going through a spiritual awakening. It started in the fall of 2016, in my intuitive perspective. The fall of 2016, and I'm not saying because of politics. I was saying for years, I feel like the fall of 2016 is going to be a massive change of consciousness.
Yeah.
And that, if you look at the timeline, yes, it kind of started changing then. So find the value through that. And the wonderful thing I am seeing, people are waking up, and I hate to sound cliche with that terminology, but it's true. And I
Right.
think a lot of people are becoming aware of the nonsense, and you start to see even different levels of consciousness starting to, in their own right, awaken to their own little things, right? So
Right.
there is an ascension process, and I am seeing people become less materialistic, and I think that's a wonderful thing too. And even on social media, people calling out the celebrity nonsense and stuff. So there is change going on, and
Yes.
so if those who are listening who are just maybe feel like uncertain, understand that's because there's change happening. Find out where the change involves you, and go with that process for yourself. Then you'll find the clarity. And
I
again,
agree, brother.
soul evolution. It's all about the soul evolution. I don't say we have to worry about fighting against things, just being aware, because spirit is in control. When we shift our essence, it aligns and also manipulates the planetary alignments, and it shifts everything within our universe, so that can then Mother Nature can actually deal with the negativity that we call evil.
I agree. Well said. And I'm on the same page. And all my subscribers
Yeah.
and viewers know that you are preaching to the choir. I completely agree. And I do believe like we are the power. I think I agree. It's all in the benefit, because by us losing power in the world, it's helping us find our
Yeah,
power within ourselves.
exactly.
So it's working, even though it's damn uncomfortable and stinky. So
It is. It's stinky, but I've learned to, like, after everything I've been through, I'm like, I'm having fun through it. I'm like, I get a cozy feeling now through challenges. It feels kind of cozy. I get a warmth, and it's almost like I can feel the support of spirit saying, "This is right." Because many people don't want to accept the negative circumstances, but when you actually do, it doesn't mean you're going to be stuck in them. It means I accept the circumstance. Let's go through it. Let's see what it's teaching me. There's this level of support that you will find. It's a spiritual essence. It feels, I say cozy, it's a feeling I get, but it feels like there is support. And all of a sudden you get clear just by accepting it,
yeah,
and this soul can actually be a voice. And then when your soul's voice, then your intuition, perspective, and awareness becomes very dominant and to the forefront of things. And a lot of people ask how to become more intuitive. I said, that's how, is to be, again, allowing the soul to speak for you.
all right, amen. Well, thank you so much,
Pleasure.
Scott. It was such a pleasure, man. You
You
you are a
too.
light, and I'm so glad
You
you're
too.
here. I'm so glad we're on this ride together, brother.
I
Uh,
appreciate you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Stick in the backstage so we can chat
Sure.
afterwards, as we talked about. And I
Sure.
hope to have you on again sometime in the future, man.
It'll be
And
great.
how everyone can find you, we have his website right here up. We have a QR code up for you guys can scan. I highly recommend you watch his videos. You'll see just from the facial reactions of people how incredible he is, that he's striking to the truth. You also do a live event every Thursday, if I'm not mistaken, on
Yes.
Instagram, right? So be sure to follow
Yes.
him on Instagram as well. That's like the chance to sort of sample. Some lucky people do get a free reading from you on Instagram, which leads to a personal reading too. And he's available for personal
Yeah.
readings. You're not booked out all year anymore, right? You have some slots.
I do month to month now. Yeah.
I do the
So
same. I do 6 weeks, but
yeah.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Just so you
So
can
like
plan your
once,
life.
right. So like I think 4 days before October, I'll open up October. So yeah.
Okay, terrific. Great. Well, it's been a pleasure. And everyone, if you read the comments, they absolutely love your energy, brother. So thank you. I'm
Oh, I
grateful.
love you guys. I love the support. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be on. I really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you. We'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. All right, that was amazing. And just flew by, and worked just, I thought, turned out beautifully. Scott Cruz, everyone, an amazing psychic. I can tell from being an intuitive myself that, I mean, well, hey, let's put it this way. I was watching his readings, and I'm not saying I'm as good as him, but like a lot of the stuff he was coming up with, my guides were telling me the same thing. So I was agreeing with what he was saying in these readings. Like I'm not a person that connect to people passed on, but everything resonated really strongly. And I got to tell you, I've been in this business for 17 years. You just don't find people as sharp as him very often. They're usually hiding and not able to be in contact with. So take advantage and look him up. And we will close the show now. Coming back full circle, Serious Joy is the most loving astrology service out there. I have like 14 apps on my phone from astrology. None of them love me. They just serve me information. Serious Joy is truly unique because we have a team of practitioners that genuinely love you. We teach through the power of love. We believe the power of love is the power of your soul. Come on down and give us a try. We're the most loving service on earth. We're just $3.99 for the first month. You can cancel at any time. We do have some wonderful specials coming up. First of all, last week, we had our Golden Egg Project, which is a monthly show where I bring on 3 subscribers. And this is right along with what Scott and I were talking about, where I believe people, if they manifest their personal dreams, they alter the vibration of Earth. In this show, I talked to 3 ladies who were pitching me their Golden Egg Project ideas, and I used their chart and also practical business sense to help them get to the next stage. So if you're stuck in your project that you're trying to create, manifest, check out this show, The Golden Egg Project, starring yours truly. We have next Wednesday in our Soul Support Hour, our mega monthlies, Lights of the Round Table. We're going to do our October preview. We're going to go through the entire month of October. We'll have the whole team there, Devin, Kristen, Heather, Robbie, and myself. Sorry, I saw you, Robbie. I just couldn't say your name. Who is an Aquarius, by the way, a resident Aquarius. That is live this Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, streaming live in the SeriousJoy.com app or online or website. And I'm going to go ahead and plug something that is coming soon. We are going to launch on the first day of Scorpio, the 40 Days of Truth and Purpose. This is going to start on October 23rd. It's a 40-day program where we will walk you through your entire chart. So if you want to learn the step system, if you want to learn how to be a step astrologer, if you want to learn your chart like the back of your hand in 40 days, you will walk away from this program knowing what is true in you and what your purpose is. We're going to get super nano. And of course, we're doing this in the Scorpio season because you can't lie in Scorpio. So that's why we're doing it from 0 Scorpio to 12 Sagittarius. That's the spectrum that we're doing. So stay tuned for that. And of course, SeriousJoy.com. It is just one of the many features that comes with the service. We're constantly doing great things like this. Now, in the broad scope, sharing is caring. The greatest thing you can do for an equal trade here is to share. Please share the show with people that you love, people that are ready to hear the message. Sharing is caring. We appreciate it. Refer them to our Serious Joy YouTube channel or SeriousJoy.com. Some people do like to donate, and I honorably accept donations because I'm learning I have to receive as much as I give. So if you like to donate, it's paypal.me/Sensei Christopher. Now, if you want to hang out with us, or if you have a spiritual practice that you want to advertise, come on down to our Facebook group. We only have 2 rules: no politics and be compassionate in your messaging. That's it. Those are our 2 rules. Come on down to SeriousJoy.club. It's a Facebook club. We post there every day. You're welcome to do live videos there to our audience. We're talking about an audience of people who love and already believe. It's not easy to find your market. Come to SeriousJoy.club. If you'd like to follow us on all the rest of our social media, we do have a link tree. It's SeriousJoy.social. You'll see links. You can get on our weekly newsletter, which sort of highlights the week and reminds you of stuff and gives you certain quotes and things coming up. That's all at SeriousJoy.social. And then lastly, a lot of people prefer to listen instead of watch. I completely respect that. I listen to so many podcasts myself. So we do make ourselves available in audio format only. It's available Saturday morning, the day after the live show, on Spotify, Stitcher, and Apple Podcasts. Just search for Namaste Today. All right, friends. Well, this has been a spectacular show. My thanks to my amazing crew. Thank you to Noelle Way, our producer. Thank you to Sarah Lyman, our director. Thank you to Scott Cruz for coming on this show, and everyone in our Serious Joy staff and our practitioners and our Lights of the Round Table. We are a team, and we are here for you. I'll see you next week, friends. Until then, I love you. Live, love, be.